Lord, make us instruments of your peace.
Where there is hatred, let us sow love.
Where there is injury, pardon.
Where there is doubt,
Faith. Where there is despair, hope.
Where there is darkness,
light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master,
grant that we may not so much seek
to be consoled as to console,
to be understood as to understand,
to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive,
it is in pardoning that we are pardoned,
and it is in dying
that we are born to eternal life.
Amen.
WESN.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience.
Give us a call at 235-5479
for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title. It's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I would ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian.
outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
As always, we appreciate you starting your day with us. Let's get into this morning's first conversation. Is the country's healthcare system more at risk more than ever? Why it has remained unaddressed for so long?
Political parties get lots of cash, big cash from financiers, and then when they get that now, you can't account for it.
But it's really the specialist nurses who we are in a greater shortfall for.
We can tap into the resources and have them, at least form some mentorship programs.
Highlight our food systems, and which will attract persons from all over the world to come and experience something that actually supports the local economy.
We're lucky that we have a vibrant legal system that allows change to take place, and it's not that matters are just swept under the carpet and discrimination is allowed to be perpetrated.
A lot of people don't know that there were attempts to ban the carnival, suppress the carnival.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business, I'm not to do with that.
And I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No.
Let's go to the last part.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to AM Prime on WESN. I am Naomi McNish.
And I am Jada McLeod.
So it's Monday, we just came off of the weekend. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. And the week ahead, I am determined to make it a great one. So yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
Same. I had a very, I wouldn't say restful weekend, but it was a usual weekend for me. I'm currently on, this was the last weekend for my swimming, so I'm on vacation from that. So for the next 3 weekends, I'm gonna have free. Very excited about that. But yeah.
Actually, since we actually bring up the weekend, the Paui Northwest District, that's the Paui Churches of Trinidad and Tobago, they would have had their youth week this past week, and it was absolutely phenomenal. I just wanted to bring them up in that way because it was put on very, very, very well. Very well done. So this morning on the AM Prime, we are joined by His Excellency Dr. Clarence Green from the African Diaspora Union, a special envoy for international relations and trade. Dr. Green has been invited to Nigeria this October to represent Trinidad and Tobago at the Union's Global Roundtable, where he will defend the African Descendants Citizenship Bill before the Nigerian Senate. It's a historic innovation, one that places our country in an important international conversation about diaspora, citizenship, and most importantly, identity. We're honored to have him here as his first interview ahead of this global engagement. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, ladies. Thank you very much for having me. Morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's a privilege to be here.
It's a privilege to have you. So congratulations first up on the invitation. How did you feel when you received it?
I kind of like wanted to pinch myself a little bit, even though, you know, I'm part of the organization for a very long time. Receiving an invitation like this was not something I saw at all coming, but it humbled me, and it made me feel, well, you know, I have to be doing something in the line of service to the organization and the world in order to be privileged to be, not every day you get an opportunity to address a Senate. So yeah, I'm still pinching myself.
I would imagine so. I mean, I had a question about the AfriDo. What does that represent, and what does that, how does its mission connect to Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean diaspora?
It's simple. If you noticed, AfriDo is really the short name for a larger name of African Diaspora Union. So AfriDo is like the name that people kind of get acclimated to real easy. We are basically a civil society organization based out of South Africa.
Okay.
The president of the organization, Professor Ugu, carries different titles, Archbishop. He's actually Nigerian. And he formed this organization many, many years ago, a global organization, because even though it's based out there, we have ambassadors and special envoys all over the world, almost in every country. I'm just privileged to be in Trinidad and Tobago representing them from this level on a global scale. I used to be in charge of the Canada, American, the Caribbean. Then I shifted to just the Caribbean, was too much work. And now they put me in this position of being the international region. So my district covers not just Trinidad and Tobago, across the world. Our main job, just like if you look at some of the civil society groups within Trinidad and Tobago or the Caribbean, when you keep talking about the diaspora and keeping about going back to the right to return and all these different things, and you hear words like, you know, repatriations and all these type of things, our focus is a little different. Our focus is we get into the crux of the matter. We are addressing the issue from a government standpoint to make a difference in the lives of people who call themselves Africans. Whether you were born in Nigeria or in Africa, or once you are black and you live in that part of the world, the conversation about the diaspora, that's what that entails. And so we are talking about the right to return to Africa based on the fact of the slave trade, and your ancestors was brought here against their will. And because we are descendants of those people never gave up their rights to be Africans. They were forced out, they were hauled out, they were dragged out as slaves. And now the descendants, we live here, I'm comfortable in Trinidad. So when somebody say, are you an African? You know, people will stumble. You go to America, people, they don't want to identify with that. But our roots are still there. And so because of that, the conversation is about, we have a right, as our parents were disenfranchised from being citizens in the country, to be the right to return to Africa and become a citizen as if you never left, with benefits. And that is what we are about. So we're not just about talking about the franchise of receiving money. We want people to have the right, if they choose to, based on the conversation that we are having, to go back to Nigeria, to go back to Ghana, to go back to these places and become citizens. And that's why the bill is in the Senate right now. It's a citizen bill that gives anybody that is black and African descent, the right to return to Africa, in this case, Nigeria.
So is it not just Trinidad and Tobago that will be almost fighting for that right?
This is a global fight.
Yeah.
And we are the only organization in the world. You can look at it from the AU, you can look at it from the UN. We are the only organization that has gotten this far in this. The only other place that has gotten recognition for doing something like this was Ghana many years ago. This is bigger than that. Wow. Because what we found out in the study is that a lot of people in this region, their ancestry is Nigerian. A lot of the slave trade was Nigerian. If you notice, a couple of weeks ago, the president of Nigeria was in St. Lucia and found out that a lot of the St. Lucians are Nigerian descendants. And so we're pushing that. We're really, really pushing it really hard. We fought really hard to get to this point to be able to present this thing in the Senate now, but we've gotten the respect, and it's there, and we want the whole world to know there is a possibility in the next few weeks or months that this bill is going to be passed, and every black person around the world is going to be affected by this. Now you have the right, as they say, to go home if you want to go home.
Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, at this Senate, the Senate public hearing, can you tell us exactly what will be your role? What is your role during this time?
When I go, well, the bill has already gone through the first phase of it, all right? The second phase of it here now is where they have the public. And in the public, what we mean is that people in the different areas of the diaspora need to present their case to convince the Senate. We need to do this. Yeah. So in my capacity as the only person that will be speaking from this region, even though I represent a global scale, it's going to affect everybody globally. But my presentation, as far as CARICOM is concerned, when I go, I represent first Trinidad and Tobago, and then I represent CARICOM. So the leaders of CARICOM needs to be informed of this, because this is way past any conversation CARICOM has had in terms of that, in the history of all the conversations. There's a big push for cultural trade. There's a big push for all kind of different programs you see coming up in the Caribbean, because the African continent is gearing up for something massive and big around the world, especially in the Caribbean. And my job is to convince the Senate to pass the bill on behalf of the Caribbean people. But when I'm finished doing that, when the bill passes, and I'm talking positive here now, when the bill passes, it's not going to affect just CARICOM people. It's going to affect every black person, no matter where you live around the world. That's how big and historic it is.
So I assume if it's anything like Trinidad and Tobago, it would have gone through the lower house already, and now since it's in the Senate. So why, when it went through its first phase, it wasn't something that was celebrated, like it was something we heard about by the CARICOM?
It was celebrated, but the thing about it, if you look at our news, we don't get that news from those areas as much. We get CARICOM, we get Trinidad, so a lot going on here. But on the outside, when the first part of it started, they've always carried it live in Africa. We've had a lot of footage of news and stuff that's going on in there, but it's never gotten to this point. Now, I think it's a perfect time that it has really made some traction in the Senate to really know this, like this part of the world know what's been happening. This has been a really long fight, and it's not easy to get in front of the Senate in Nigeria. And to get this far as a civil society, that's why they call it a civilian bill, to get this far and get the respect of the Nigerian government to do something like this, or to consider something like this, we had to be doing something right to get to this point. And we're excited. So,
what are the major points against what you will be presenting?
Listen, the bill has been welcomed. The bill has been really, really welcome. The challenge of the bill, however, is for those that want to actually go, because Africa is a different place. It's a different culture. I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago. Everything I know is culture here. My family is here. My education is a different level of education. The challenge in the bill is for individuals who decide, okay, I want to live in Africa. You just don't go to Africa just like that. It's not like you went to the United States. Even though we are the same color, there's a whole lot of things you need to know. You need to know about the education, the health care. You need to know about how you're going to fit in, what kind of businesses you're going to do. Everything changes for you. And whether or not where you're going to be accepted, safety, everything comes into play, because you're making a move from, is it in line with what? Looking at banking. Am I secure in banking? Can I use my credit card when I get here? So in considering to make the move, even though the bill is passed, the individuals or whoever it is going, there are three levels. There are those who want to go and live. The second level, which is the tripod stand we're talking about, those who want to go and live, those who just want to go to do business, and those who just want to go visit and feel it out until they get comfortable with being there. There's cultural exchanges you can do like that. You can actually go, there's a lot of business opportunities in Africa, in Nigeria, but you have to be well informed and you have to do your due diligence in order to make such a move.
Yeah. I mean, so reaching this point, do you see any or foresee any challenges that you are concerned about before arriving to state your case and hopefully get the bill passed?
My challenge, look, all the excitement I have here about going, and I know the bill is going to be passed. You already had the sponsor in the Senate and everything else for the bill to be passed. The president knows about the bill. All that wonderful things happening. My challenge in getting there, my challenge is, how do I get to Nigeria? Nigeria is not going to Barataria or Tobago. Nigeria is a very long way off, and looking at the finances to get there, it's a privilege and an honor to represent my country. I need my country's support. I need my country, I need my government support, I need business support. And I'm making that appeal based on the question you asked, because it's going to take a tremendous amount of money to get to Nigeria, to represent your country on that level. Which person in the Caribbean has ever done so? I mean, when you heard about the president of Nigeria, he came to address the Senate in St. Lucia. That's a privilege that people at that rank gets, not an ordinary citizen. And even though my title sounds nice, I'm still an ordinary citizen. So I want to go to represent my country, and I want to go to represent my the CARICOM. Every head of government within the Caribbean should push me to go there, should ensure that I get there. Because when I get there, the representation is massive. It's important. They want somebody from the Caribbean to come, because we played a serious role of what happened back in the past. The challenge is, how do I get there, the finances, to handle all the expenses going there. So my appeal as I stand here is for my government to hear what I'm saying here right now, or members of my government to hear, my Prime Minister to hear this, and to say, you know what, let's push this, let's support this, let's let him go. For the business community to say, what can we do? Call me, get in touch with me, what can we do to help? Because this is historic, not just for me as an individual, it's satisfying for me as an individual, but for the entire CARICOM and for Trinidad and Tobago. I should get any opportunity to go to represent my country on that level.
And I would agree as well. Has there been any sort of reaching out, any sort of communication with not just the corporate Trinidad, but government?
Well, I've written several governments so far. I haven't gotten response yet. Most favorable response I've got so far, I got a response from the Barbados government. I got a response from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I haven't gotten from ours as yet. I'm hoping that happens. But this is just the beginning. It's not far off. I'm supposed to be there between the 6th and the 12th of October.
Okay, yeah.
So that's not too far off, but I just have basically a month and a half. But that is the time frame that I have. So being here today is really my first big public push from a television standpoint, from a media standpoint. So WACN has gotten the first one.
I want to just clarify, and especially for our audience as well, this citizenship bill, what does it mean in practical terms? So we're talking about travel rights, we're talking about cultural exchange. What else?
The citizen bill, the crux of the matter with it is this. If you want, after the bill passes, based on the terms of why we got the bill passed, anybody can go to Nigeria right now if they want to. You want to go to live in Nigeria, you make an application, you go to the Nigerian embassy and say, I would love to go in Nigeria, I want to get a visa, or I want to go and live. What are the terms of it? What's the difference with what we're doing? The difference is what we're doing is through the ancestral, the right to return based on the fact that you are a Nigerian. And that is going to be done through DNA testing. You're going to test your blood to see how much Nigerian blood you have in you. And based on that, you get the right to go and live in Nigeria as a citizen. What we're pushing for along with that are benefits. We're not sure if we're going to get everything that we want, but we feel that it's seen that we were basically disenfranchised and our parents have been disenfranchised. What comes along with the bill? If I come to Nigeria and I want to be there, am I getting piece of land? What are the things I'm going to get, coupled with the fact that I'm entitled to a citizenship? I go to the Nigerian embassy and we process that under that. What are the benefits of all of that as a citizen coming into Nigeria under those things? So that is the difference between what we have present right now, where you can walk in and just try to apply. The uniqueness of this one is that they want to recognize you not just as a person in the diaspora. You're going for citizenship as if you were born there.
There's a pathway to citizenship.
Yeah, pathway to citizenship. You get it. It's not a long drawn out thing. Because the bill is passed, anybody in the region can apply to be a citizen based on that. My father is Grenadian. I'm gonna put it like this to you. My father is a Grenadian. My mother is Tobagonian. And if you go to the consulate in Grenada, they will tell you, because my father and grandparents were Grenadian, I'm entitled to get a passport from Grenada. No questions asked. That's what we're talking about. Because of what we're doing in Nigeria, you are entitled to have a Nigerian passport with all the full rights of a citizen who lives there. You can do business, all the benefits, you can vote, everything. That's the benefit of what we're doing.
Have you heard from current Nigerian citizens, or is there a push from them to welcome the diaspora in?
It's definitely a push. They are excited about it, but like I said, even though you have people who are excited, the push is more cultural. The push is cultural. The push is like, where do I fit in a Nigerian society? Exactly. And will everybody accept me as one of them? And that answer comes back resoundingly, no. You have to find your niche, just like if you went to America, or if you go to Barbados, you have to find your space where you feel comfortable, because not everybody will say you have a right to be here. Like they say, you're coming here to take our jobs. In the United States, that's a big thing happening. So you have to do your due diligence, find a place that will work well with you, the society, the community that will work well with you. But I don't think, to be realistic, that every single person would be so excited to say, well, just welcome in. That might be on the front, but there definitely would be a time of acclimatization and getting accustomed to the way I do things and the way you do things, the way I speak, and everything else. But that takes time.
So
if you want to go through the process, then you have to be for those challenges that comes along as well.
I think that's expected. It's not supposed to be the smoothest ride ever, but the fact that it's there, that's the point. So aside from your plea for sponsorship, how are you preparing for the responsibility?
Well, let me tell you this. You'll be surprised to know who has already. I have a very strong supporter in the person of Grammy Award winner Jerry Bell. Jerry Bell and I have been in contact since the inception of this group. He used to be a part of this group, and he has lent his service through his music. And if you want to check him out on the internet, you realize Jeremiah, he's a Grammy, back in the 70s was a real R&B with the Daz Band and Earth, Wind and Fire. He's partnered with me in a number of things, human trafficking, which I've spoken about a long time ago on this show. And he's lending, so that we have this system now where we can download his music for a small price, and some of that money is going towards funding the project to raise some of the money. There's another group in, it's actually Trinidadian living in the UK, did a song a couple years ago on human trafficking, and they reached out to me, Nigel and Nick, and they reached out to me and said, I want to be in on this. This is something historic, I want to be a part of it. Let's get our music involved in this, and people to download it, and part proceeds will go to your trip and making sure that you get here. So we're getting different artists and different people different around the world that hearing about it, that says, look, how can we help? Yeah. And we hope that even Trinidad artists, whether they want to do a concert for me or whether they want to do some kind of fundraising businesses, whatever it is they can do to raise the requirement, the money, we'll be grateful. And we're excited about what's happening. To be aligned with people who are Grammy Award winners and stuff is a really amazing thing for me, yeah.
It's a very congratulatory achievement, so I wish you the best on that, for certain.
Thank you very much.
Can you at least state the goal or ballpark number?
Ballpark number, $40,000-$50,000.
Oh,
okay. There's
TT.
You're reaching out in no time.
Yeah. Short amount of time. I believe it's possible. And so I'm really reaching out, and I'm hoping that people who are listening right now could pass the message on to those that are not looking on at this time. I'm reaching out to people to reach out to me, and let's do this together. Let's make the Caribbean crowd and make the contribution to the conversation in Nigeria and make it happen.
So how can people reach out to you if they want to get like an account number, or is there something to put money into a pot?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. Is that my personal bank account? But yes, there's a bank number. But you can reach out to me to 1-868-397-5961. That's my cell number, 868-397-5961. I always say that because you never know who will call you from outside.
Yep. Yeah. All right, and for persons who may not be that quick at taking down numbers, is there an email as well, or a website, or? afriducariambas@gmail.com. That's AFRIDUCARIAMBAS@gmail.com. Just address it to that and we'll receive it. All right. So Dr. Green, the number to repeat is 868-397-5961. Or if you're like me and you prefer an email, afridu, that's AFRIDU, CARI, CARI, ambas, AMBAS@gmail.com. So afriducariambas@gmail.com. And if you don't remember that at all and you want to contact WESN afterwards to get that, you can as well. All right, so we can begin to wrap up. But you've been given the title of Special Envoy. What does that mean to you personally?
Well, it's my president believed in me. I think I've gained the respect through representing the organization from dealing with 3 different areas. United States is a massive country. I was in charge as an ambassador there. I was in charge of Canada and the Caribbean all at the same time. And then he found that the workload was just too much for me. And then living here and having to deal with those foreign countries, he asked me if I would consider giving up those titles and deal with the Caribbean. So I said yes. Then he moved me from the Caribbean and he said, I have something even better for you, because I think your reach in being the international relations person is a more global approach for you. And so I accepted that. My role is to do exactly what I'm doing here. Not just to be on television and all of that, but to convince governments to sit with those people that make a difference in their decision making. For too long, we have a lot of civil society groups within the Caribbean, and there are hundreds of them. That when we look at it, it's a nice cultural event that we have every year in most countries in the Caribbean. What's the next step? The next step is for us to take this thing from just being a cultural event every year and really make a serious impression on people's lives. So that if you want change, change could come with the option of, let me go and see what Nigeria has for me. Let me go and see. So it's to talk to governments and to talk to other groups and to bring us together, not just to talk about reparations and reparative justice in the sense of money, but give people the opportunity to have cultural exchange, to do businesses, because there's so many opportunities out there. Trading blocks are coming together. The Caribbean needs to partner with Africa and partner to do better business, to have trade and all that. And we'll open up that opportunity through the bill so that people have options, not just to sit down and wait on a check at some point in time. If I want to do it, I can do it on my own. I can go to Nigeria and become successful. I can live there. As a matter of fact, you know, one of my friends was telling me recently, if you have about $60,000, you'd be surprised to know what size of house you could build in some of these countries. 60,000 US. So, one guy said to me, you know, gold to me is like walking out and seeing a stone that you would see in the yard. So because my family have so much gold, because we have the land, I see this every day. It means really nothing to me. But to you, in your part, it would mean much more because it has more value there. Yeah. And so we want to give people the opportunity to go do that. Go see. If you can't go as a citizen, go as a visitor. Yeah. Feel it out. Do your head, your legwork. And gradually you might be able to make the change and eventually decide, I want to live here.
So right now it's Nigeria, but is there any hope to open it up to any other African nation?
Well, as we sit with different countries, like I said, you're looking at Nigeria. Ghana has done it. They went ahead of everybody. Nigeria is doing it. There's other countries that we are talking to right now. It's up to every government. We think that because Nigeria is the biggest black country in the world,
that everybody's going to follow.
That a lot of people will follow after that because they have a lot of influence over the rest of the continent, a continent of 1.5 billion people.
Yes, ma'am. That's the majority of the world.
Right? Just think about if WCN should have a piece of that, so people could listen to them. That's a big chunk.
It's really incredible because when you think about tying people back to their roots, it really does give them a sense of pride and just being able to realize or know for certain this is where I come from, and now I'm able to
home.
And go back to that, even though, you know, especially somebody who would be much older, spend all their time in Trinidad, but not knowing that this is their roots, and this is where their ancestors came from, and I think it's an incredible initiative.
I can't wait to get there.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to, you know, all this African talk I've been hearing since I was a kid.
Yeah.
To put my feet, you know, I have one of my associates from Guyana. He went last year. He said there's no feeling like touching down in Nigeria, in an African place, and seeing people like yourself. There's another ambassador, she's American, born in New York, moved to Angola, not going back.
Not going back.
So I go for, you know.
Just out of curiosity, I know, so you would have done that testing to see how much Nigerian you have?
Not yet.
Okay.
Definitely before I leave, I want to do it.
Yeah. I would love to know.
Definitely. Before I leave here, I'm going to take that stick at the pin and see how much Nigerian inside of me.
And then let your liaison family know when you're about to take off, and what's the first feeling of landing there. And
we're going to keep this going. Yeah. We have to keep this going because I want you guys to follow me. As a matter of fact, what we are hoping as well, and I'm glad you said that, if we can get sufficient support, that we can get some media. You see, you asked a serious question earlier on. How is it we didn't know about this before? If we could get some media people to go with us to bring back the proof that this has happened, bring it back home, show the Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of the Caribbean, it really happened. This is something that happened, you know. You don't want to see me just on YouTube. Bring it back and see me actually addressing the Senate and all that. that's going to be a great experience. So yeah.
All right. So as we wrap, what message would you like to leave with the people of Trinidad and Tobago that are listening right now? Or what message would you like people to take away?
My people, my government, my business people, my friends, my colleagues, both near and far, this is a privilege that I think that I'm humbled to receive the opportunity to go to Nigeria to address the Senate. We need your help, we need your support. This is important, this is historic. Let's make history together. Let's make something happen within the Caribbean that we can all be proud of. We all know our roots are from. We've been brought up in school thinking that we are Africans. Let us make it happen and in real, that we all can have a piece of document that actually says, not I'm thinking I'm African, but I'm African in the sense that I am a citizen and I have the opportunity to be a citizen. Lend your support to this amazing historic opportunity and just contact me and let's make it happen together.
All right. So, as you can see, we've been speaking with His Excellency Dr. Clarence Green, AfriDo Special Envoy, who will be representing Trinidad and Tobago at the AfriDo Global Roundtable in Abuja this October. It's a major step in strengthening our connection to the African continent, and we'll be following his journey very closely. Dr. Green, thank you for joining us, and we wish you every success.
I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Just to reiterate the number, it's 868-397-5961, 868-397-5961, or you can email at afriducariambas@gmail.com. That spelling is afriducariambas@gmail.com. Every success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again. And we're just about to take a short break and we will be right back with you.
KDM Health Limited says, test yourself for STDs in the privacy of your own home. Our self-help test kits for all STDs are available at our wholesale office in Chaguanas. Call 283-1423. Visit our website at www.kdmhealtht.com or email us at kdmhealthlimited@gmail.com to place your orders. Available at all health institutions and pharmacies. Contact us for a free list of products and prices.
Welcome to ASTI, Advanced Solutions Technical Institute. We offer hands-on training in drone technology, fiber optics, hybrid, security, business support, and more. Our programs are built to equip you with real-world skills for today's evolving industries. Get certified, get hired, and take your career to the next level with ASTI. Call 778-2135 or email info@astitnt.com. ASTI, where learning meets opportunity.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience. Give us a call at 235-5479 for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
You don't need to register nothing. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploiting the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Welcome back to the program this morning. So we are moving right along. Today we're joined by Alicia Barry, the founder of Glassstick Designs Interior Style Limited. So Alicia is she's rethinking sustainability, which is something so incredible, and we love talking sustainability. Through her business, she transforms plastic waste into beautiful and useful items like tiles and home decor. So we have two videos to show you, just to give you an idea of what the Glassstick Designs is all about, and then we're going to have a conversation with Alicia.
This is Trinidad. And this is also Trinidad. Plastic accounts for the second largest solid waste dumped in our landfills here in Trinidad and Tobago. A huge percentage of plastic waste is actually meant to be recycled, but unfortunately, most of it isn't. Every year, our country produces tons and tons of plastic waste, and most of it just ends up in our landfills, on our streets, in our rivers and drains. So, what's the solution? Instead of treating plastic like trash or waste, let's treat it as a valuable resource. All of the products that Glassstick Designs Interior Styles make and will continue to make is all made from recycled plastic waste. Instead of dumping and burning it, we redefine it and transform it into something new and of higher value. This is the definition of circular economy, where waste never really becomes waste. This is the future. Shouldn't every company in Trinidad and Tobago be directly involved in the reduction of plastic waste? Drop a comment down below and let's talk about it.
Well, everybody shouting up right there.
From this to this. This to this. This to this. Clocks, coasters, tiles, and stools, we are creating products that are functional and sustainable. With every purchase, you contribute to the reduction of plastic pollution here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, that was just phenomenal, awesome. So we're joined by Alicia in studio. Good morning, Alicia. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, I mean, watching those videos and seeing what you do, I'm just intrigued to know, how did this all begin? Where did the
idea and everything
yes.
came? So my background is environmental and geology. Academically, I studied geography and geology. So I'm just trying to create the change that I want to see happening locally in Trinidad and Tobago. We know plastic pollution has been and still is a problem locally. It's not something that we were taught in school. I don't know what schools you went to, but if they spoke about recycling, put your plastic bottle here, it's not something that's inculcated in schools, was yet for adults.
Yeah.
So we unfortunately have the mindset of just throwing everything outside. If we finish, somebody throw it at the side of the road, throw it in the grass, whatever. So it's just a matter of transitioning that type of mindset where plastic, it's a material that can be reused, and that's why they have those numbers and everything on them. And just getting it from thinking it's not trash, it's a resource that we can put higher value on it if we market it properly and if we edify the public.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So walk us through the process. How do you actually take plastic waste and convert it into something useful like these tiles? These tiles are so pretty.
They are. And so different aspects of the business is one that we want to engage the public in collection, because that's the main thing for the business. We have to get the plastic waste. And we have liaised with different organizations such as Flying Tree Environmental Management. They are a big recycling company here in Trinidad and Tobago that people may not necessarily know about. And we have Every Bottle Back TT. So what we try to do is that we engage people through incentives. We have competitions for them to be excited about bringing in your plastic. Every bottle back, they pay people for plastic, and people may not know that. So once we collect the plastic, we then go through a process of sorting, sterilizing, and it's just a matter of being innovative to think about, okay, this is like a piece of wood, what can we make with this? So it's like a sheet that we make with the plastic, what can be made with it? And essentially we just make anything that's creative in mind and useful, because the idea of it is to be functional. Yeah?
Did you like art in school?
Oh yeah, I am very creative in that aspect. So I did a lot of art as well. So I mean, the possibilities are endless. And with the customer, we tell you that you have the chance to customize your product. So if you tell me, oh, I want some pink tiles or whatever, it's possible. So we like that creative aspect to engage the customer as well.
Can you dye the plastic?
No. So plastic is a tricky polymer, but the color it comes, that's the color we use. We can't change it, but what we can do is mix it to get different colors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's art, guys, art.
Yeah. So on your Instagram, going through it, we would have seen not just the tiles, but we saw stools and what other products have you created with the plastic?
So far we have 4 products. We have clocks, tiles, stools, and coasters. We're just about to launch our bench. That's the initiative that we want to get into schools by the grace of God. And as we go along, it depends. Whatever comes to mind that we are capable of doing, we'll do. So plant pots, all those things, we have a line of products that we essentially want to come out with. And all of the products are for interior styling.
Okay.
How much work, like how big is your team?
Team is small for now, building and growing. It's a slow process because we need a lot of funding. The equipment to do all of this processing is very, very expensive, and we have been self-funded thus far. So it's a bit slower. The team is small, but it's still an artisan business. So it has a lot of labor going into it to ensure that the product is durable, it is appealable to the customers, essentially.
Yeah. Okay. So no, I just wanted to, there's a, I know you didn't, I just really curious, right? Apart from the products and using the plastic waste and creating these tremendous items, the vertical garden, I saw that on your page, right?
Yeah.
So I just really quickly, can you just touch on that and just let us know? Because I know once our viewers, they go on your Instagram, they will see it, right? So I saw it, I'm curious, never seen anything like that before.
So anything we do now in our business is not new technology. It's new to us in this Western hemisphere, in the Caribbean region, but internationally it's not new. The name Glastic is a play on glass, plants, and plastic. We focus heavily on the plastic, but we also do plants. So with the vertical gardens, we are just rethinking of how you can put plants in your home if you don't have that horizontal space. So you may not have enough plant pots, whatnot. You can have it vertically on your wall. And we just want to incorporate green into your home because green is important. Plants are calming, it's our oxygen source. So we're trying to make all of the environmental aspects fun and, you know, kind of niche to the people who are our customers and our clientele.
Do the plants, are they being vertical? Does it affect its growth or how they function?
No, plants just need a substrate to survive.
Right.
So however you put that substrate, once it is thriving, they are good to go. So when we put it vertically, we have our nice pockets and fertilizer. We take care of it and we supply you with the plants, whether it's for indoor or outdoor. So our largest wall was at Bishop Anstey High School, Port of Spain. That was a massive project. But it's just a matter of maintaining it, and it can live up to 50 years, 50.
Wow.
That's long. Yeah. So can you tell me, what has been, if you had to be biased, your favorite project thus far? Because mine is obviously the benches. I want the stools. I want to sit on one really, really badly. I saw it and I was like, plastic.
Yeah, people would think, oh, it might break, but it's really strong. Favorite project? I don't know, you know. All of them is literally blood, sweat, and tears. But I think my favorite thing to see in any of the project is how the clients react to it. First of all, they fall in love with the color. They fall in love with the idea that, oh my gosh, this is made from plastic waste. So that's my favorite aspect of the business. I don't have a favorite project per se, but the people's response to it, I love that, and that's what keeps us going. That gives me the momentum.
In terms of, so I know you said you'll partner with the two groups. With regard to getting plastic to create these products, does the groups or the businesses that you'll partner with assist in that, or you get it from them, or do you ask people from the public to bring in your plastic, or how does it work?
So essentially it's two aspects. Yes, we partner with Flying Tree Environmental Management, and they have been a gracious partner thus far. They provide us with plastics that we need because people carry their plastics to them, companies give them plastics, and we also take from them and fabricate our products. But we also engage the public ourselves through our plastic recycling competitions. So we have one coming up in September, soon to be announced on our socials. And that competition, persons are going to win cash prizes, hampers, etc. for recycling their plastic. So that's how we get our feedstock of our raw material.
How long have you been in business?
It's a young business, still emerging. It's been 3 years. The first year has been a lot of, I mean, every year is prototyping, but the first year has been dedicated to prototyping, what materials will be needed, what resources are needed. With regards to plastic, if you didn't know, there are like 7 grades of plastic, and we only work with 2. So we had to have an idea of where we get any plastic from, how can we get the plastic, what factors are needed just to start us up. So 3 years growing steadily, and yeah, that has been the process thus far.
Well, what has been the biggest learning
curve? Getting people to feel differently about environmental aspects, because people don't really care about the environment. You know, you have to make it engaging, because it has been like our socials. TikTok has exploded now for me. I've been sleeping on TikTok, but it's just a matter of changing how we get the information out there. And the day we decided, all right, let's kind of make it more fun, engaging, to
get the message across and for people to be engaged. That's how we're now seeing a lot of traction as of this year. So that's the main challenge, getting people to really think and listen to what we're trying to show you, a solution for plastic waste. And a lot of people still don't know you can get money for your plastic. There's an active, thriving company here that's doing it. So we're just trying to direct people into different avenues.
How much plastic would you say you would go through for one product?
So like our stools range from 2.5 to 3 kilograms of plastic. And that's like, if we hold up like 3 big garbage bags of bottle covers only, right? So the more we are able to make larger products, the more we're able to recycle more plastic. So that's why we're going into the benches, and we're going to do that with a project in a school soon, so I'm happy for that. So I like that these bigger projects are coming in, so we're able to have a greater impact.
Yeah. So what is the biggest challenge you face with using plastic to create these products?
The products?
Yeah.
The fabrication of whatever it is we're doing. So like the recent thing was the bench. You're trying to get it to be as stable as something that they would use if it's wood or metal, or even better. So just making sure, I mean, perfection is, you have to strive for perfection, yes and no, but I always want to get it as perfect as possible. So that there is the greatest challenge, to ensure that the material and the end product is as durable as possible. So you'll go through fabricating. I mean, it took us literally like a week or a little more to fabricate the bench to its best functionality as possible. So getting the product there is always the greatest challenge, but when it's there, it's always great. Yeah.
Have you all gotten any good feedback so far concerning the benches, especially? I know you mentioned before you'd like to get them into schools.
Yeah.
How has the process been for that?
These stools, fantastic feedback, and people were skeptical. So like in our video, we had it at TIC, and I was really happy to be at TIC because you had a large crowd of people coming in to see a product. They were skeptical to sit on it, but then when they sat on it, be like, oh, okay, this is nice, it's comfortable, you know. So getting them over that hurdle is great, and just testing it out in the public. So when we get the bench out in the public and get it tested, then we will know maybe we have to tweak this, tweak that. But that's just how the process goes, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like, you know, the discovery of fire all over again.
Yeah, anything you test, you have to get it out into the public and let them test it to see.
Yeah, I can't, because when you think about something solid, like a bench or a stool, especially a bench that would supposed to sit multiple people. Plastic seems like, how are you gonna get it to hold all this weight, right?
That's true.
I mean,
that's what I'm thinking of as well. Like, do you mix materials?
Yeah.
No mixing of materials. But I mean,
it's
like,
just is it that when I think about it, just plastic being compact can get very hard.
Very hard. That's it. Once it's compacted, it's really hard, harder than, or it probably has the same hardness as wood or even hard as metal.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna break or anything easily unless you put like a tremendous amount of pressure, which we cannot do physically on our own.
Just by sitting.
Just by sitting, yeah.
So in terms of the colors, because the colors tend to be very bright based on what we would have seen in the videos, I bet that attracts kids a lot.
Well, I'm hoping to see how the children respond to it as we go into this new project with the bench at the school. That would be great to see, but I think they would. And like I said, it's customizable, so we could always customize different color palettes to attract the children, because, you know, children like these vibrant things.
Going through schools can sometimes be very, very difficult, but how is the response from government, if, you know, there's been some communication
there? No response from government yet. I mean, we are still marketing as best as we can with the resources that we have right now. I mean, social media is our main marketing platform right now. So I'm hoping, as we do this first school, hoping that gets out there so that we can get some attention from government eventually.
Has there been any have there been any barriers with regard to weather and the product? So heat, rain when plastic gets wet.
Yeah. So people like to leave a lot of comments on socials. It's going to melt in heat. And so I've been studying this for 3 years now.
Right.
Plastic, it's a lovely material to use with. It's just the mismanagement of it that creates the problem, right? Once plastic is compacted, yes, it's something that can be affected by heat, but once it's compacted, that gives it a high level of resistance. So having the bench out in just sunlight, it's not going to affect it. Plastic takes almost 500 years plus to degrade. So that's beyond our lifetime. So once we create that product, I call it a one-time purchase. It's going to stay there for 500 years. That's a very long time, right? So it's not something that's just going to easily be broken down with sunlight now.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Does it make any noise when you sit on it?
No. No
Okay.
noise, nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, the only noise, if you literally want to mash up something, you would mash it up. But it's a durable product. So no noise, no shaking. We stabilize it as best as possible. So it's,
I'm thinking a water bottle, and the noise a water bottle makes when you crush it.
Right. So that's the different grades of plastic, right? So like, can I use a bottle as an example? So like the water bottle here is called PET, that's grade 1, polyethylene terephthalate. We use grade 2, which is high density polyethylene. That's a stronger plastic than this. We don't touch the PET because it gives off a lot of chemicals when heated, and heat is a main part of our process. So we use grade 2 and grade 5, which is called PP, polypropylene. Those are harder plastics. So like even like a plastic chair, you can sit on that, it could take a certain amount of weight, but it breaks quicker.
Right.
Ours, it would not because it's more compacted. So we take like essentially 10 plastic chairs to make one sheet.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you use the harder plastic. What about, that softer plastic, what would you use that for?
We don't use that. So different companies would probably export it to another country that would then take the plastic and then they recycle it back into the original polymer so that they can make more plastic bottles from it. So that's what every bottle back TT does. They collect the plastic bottles, they pay you for that, and they ship it out.
So they separate and give you what you use.
So we take exactly, So that's where the term circular economy comes in, and different companies working together to take that bottle, and we're not carrying it outside any landfill, we're not throwing it outside on the ground, anything. Taking it, put it right back into the cycle.
Okay. So it's a full machine working, because if it's just you're taking one aspect of the plastic and then ditching the rest, it's like, where's that going?
Where's that going?
Yeah.
Exactly,
Alicia, I feel 10 times smarter. Because it reminds me, the conversation reminds me of, say, like somebody like Albert Einstein telling us about something that we all use nowadays, some new invention, and it's like we're asking these questions like, so wait, the oven, it gets hot?
Yeah, and that's the crazy part, because she's speaking and it's like things you would think we would know, but you put it in a way that it kind of dumbs it down. So I understand fully now, like, okay, plastic, different types of plastic. When you compact plastic,
and different grades of plastic. That's not something that occurred to me, but it's so very understandable, because it's like, it's not the same thing.
And all of that is a part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it fun and engaging so that people get the idea, okay, I should think differently about plastic.
So y'all can definitely check out Alicia's page on Instagram. We put the Instagram up on the screen, Glastick Designs, and then TikTok glastick.designs as well, and just have a look at what she does, the different products. If anybody wants to get involved, is that possible in terms of being a part of the team?
Yes, we do take volunteers, but we take volunteers more for our recycling competitions. So I was saying that we have one coming up in September, and the role of the volunteers that we're going to be sorting the plastic. So all of that is that they would be engaging in knowing the different grades of plastic as well. So whatever we get, we're going to sort, we're going to bag it and give to the different entities. We take what we need, the other entity will take what they need. So it should be engaging like that.
So I mean, for that event in September, if you have a flyer, you can send it to us and we can put it up and show.
Will do.
Okay, so I think that will bring us to the end.
One more question. So Glastick, right? Is it like glamorous plastic. Am I like on the nose there, or?
So it's a play of glass, plants, and plastic. So GLA, glass, and the tick with the plastic at the end, and we incorporated plants in that as well. So that was the idea. My sister came up with that. Kudos to her. So yeah.
I like it. I just wanted to ask because I was like, where did plastic come from?
Eventually want to get into glass. It's just a whole lot of things that I want to do, but one step at a time. So yeah, essentially we want to recycle glass as well, but that's a steeper learning curve. Yeah.
Let me just say that there's this guy on YouTube that I used to sometimes watch to fall asleep, and he works with glass. And it's, oh my gosh, it just looks so perfect, because when you get the outcome, it's like, how did you even? Exactly. Yeah, it's like this oven, this huge oven thing. It gets so hot, and I'm like, you stand next to that? I would never do.
And it's just the creative aspect, and I'm happy that I do have that art background, so that you create something that people are so amazed by. So yeah,
I'm definitely amazed. I failed art 3 times. I don't know why I just said that, but 3 times. But that's why I'm very interested in this, because to see how something can go from nothing, or something we regard as trash, to something that I'm actively paying you my hard-earned money for, that's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so that brings us to the end of this conversation with Alicia. Again, visit her Instagram, her social medias, it's on the screen, and support this amazing, we wish you all the best. And
it's necessary.
Yes, and please let us know if you do get into these schools. This is something that we'd love to share with our audience as well.
Thank you for having me, guys.
No problem.
Touch on the glass? Yeah.
I'll let you know.
All right, guys. So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have one more conversation for you guys this morning. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to ASTI, Advanced Solutions Technical Institute. We offer hands-on training in drone technology, fiber optics, hybrid, security, business support, and more. Our programs are built to equip you with real-world skills for today's evolving industries. Get certified, get hired, and take your career to the next level with ASTI. Call 778-2135 or email info@astitnt.com. ASTI, where learning meets opportunity.
KDM Health Limited says, test yourself for STDs in the privacy of your own home. Our self-help test kits for all STDs are available at our wholesale office in Chaguanas. Call 283-1423, visit our website at www.kdmhealthtt.com or email us at kdmhealthlimited@gmail.com to place your orders. Available at all health institutions and pharmacies. Contact us for a free list of products and prices.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
let's go to the last part.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really want
to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I would ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say, we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, so we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
All right, welcome back to the program this morning. So we are jumping into our last conversation of the morning, and this one we're taking a closer look at a very common but overlooked condition. It's called onychomycosis. Onychomycosis. I hope I got that right. Onychomycosis, better known as nail fungus. It's an issue that affects many people in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly because of our warm tropical climate. So joining us this morning is podiatrist Leanna Huntley from the Almawi Clinic to help us understand what nail fungus is, how it develops, and most importantly, what we can do to treat and prevent it. Good morning, Ms. Huntley. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Ms. Huntley, let's start simple. What is onychomycosis or nail fungus? And just explain deeper, why is it so common in Trinidad and Tobago?
Okay, so given what you said earlier, you're quite right. And you did get the pronunciation right as well. So well done. It is a nail fungus, and because of our climate, indeed, it is very common for us to have this condition occurring, but there are a number of factors that can contribute to it. Now, there are different types of fungus. You can have tinea which we commonly call athlete's foot. You can have a surface fungus on the sole of the feet. Now, a nail fungus is something that is very common, and it, besides our climate, things like diabetes, which is a disease process that so many of our citizens suffer with, that predisposes them to fungal infection. Our habits, that's a major factor in terms of us contracting a fungus. And something that you ladies spoke about just now, you know, you may have a pedicure done, and that, depending on the tools used and the sanitization process, that is something that can also lead to issues.
Yeah.
So there are varied things, which I guess we'll get into a bit later on, that contribute to a fungus, but climate, and given in corporate TNT, you generally would be required to wear enclosed footwear. That moisture can contribute. Some of us naturally sweat in our feet, but generally, because of our hot climate, that moisture or the fungus needs is a nice, moist, dark environment, and that can create loads of problems.
Yeah. So how does the fungus usually enter the nail? I mean, does it take a broken nail? Can it enter your nail even if you don't have a chipped nail or a lifted nail? What does it take for that fungus to enter the nail?
Honestly, sometimes we can't even, map. When I ask patients, we can't map exactly what would have been the cause, but definitely if you have a nail that is semi-detached from the nail bed, that is an avenue, because definitely, every day we would have a shower, and that is moisture that can get between the nail and the nail bed, and it's not something that you can just get out of there. So that in itself would contribute to that moist environment for the fungus to thrive. But there isn't the need for a chip in the nail necessarily. Literally, just from basic habits, using a public shower stall, and men not changing their socks regularly. And for some reason, it's something that I've noticed a vast difference. If a female goes to the gym, she would naturally, after that workout, put that pair of socks in the dirty clothes bin. Men typically would wear that pair of socks again. They would tend to, if they play sports, I love football, for instance, so it's a common practice that a footballer may put the socks back into their football boots and wear it another time. That is a factor. In children, and you'd be quite surprised, some very young children have fungal infections. And one of the common ways with them is that they sit while watching television or using a device, and they pick at their nails and peel. And in that process, they can cause some damage to the area and create that exposure as well. So, there are those varied ways. We love the beach, and some of us may, wrap our towel around us, get into the vehicle, get home, and then have a shower. Or we may just change and have a shower at home. But some persons go into that public bathroom, and there is a very common place in sports, the same thing if you use a public health facility at the gym. So there are those varied ways that, it can contribute to that occurring. In a pedicure process, now many pedicurists have some really good practices. When I speak to patients and, I listen. And I also, what girl doesn't love going for a pedicure and having your feet pampered?
Yeah.
So I, have been to different places, and I obviously look at their practices. And some pedicurists are very well trained in carrying out the process, as well as trying to reduce the risk of a fungus being passed to their patient. But sometimes, in terms of the tools used, if it's not sanitized properly, and sometimes in that sanitization process, things can still occur. So you find that it is one of the places that you can contract a fungus in a diabetic, in someone who doesn't have good controls. And it's the reason I am connected with the Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and it's the reason that diabetics have to be careful in terms of what they do, because it's a numbers game. And if your numbers aren't well controlled, then you're more at risk for a fungus occurring and then for it not, leaving as quickly as one would hope.
Yeah.
And in so saying, a fungal infection is easy to come, but very difficult to go, and it takes a long time in terms of treatment.
So as you brought that up with the diabetics, I wanted to ask, in your opinion, who is the most vulnerable to this snail fungus? Because we understand athletes, and then you mentioned the diabetics. Can this also affect people? Is it an issue with, if your immune system is weak, that you are prone to getting the fungus than somebody who has a stronger immune system?
So I'll first say we're all prone to fungal infections. I have had it in the past. A common group of persons that are predisposed, runners or persons who walk, particularly if you're doing, like, say, a bamboo cathedral or, a chancellor, which is common, the impact, it can cause that detachment from the nail. Persons with a compromised immune system, most definitely more predisposed. And there are persons with psoriasis as well, who can develop what is called psoriatic nails. And because of that crumbly effect, you find that, yes, it makes you more predisposed to fungal infection. But honestly, because of our climate, you find that just that factor alone makes us quite predisposed. It's not that it doesn't happen in a cold temperature country, but it is something that, because of our climate, we are more at risk.
Ms. Amplia, one something that's like an everyday practice that people can do to improve their foot health in general, even if they don't necessarily have the condition, but they're worried about it. Because, and I say this because you would hear people say, I want to put lemon and ginger too, and that's what's going to keep me from getting anything. So how would you respond to people asking this type of question?
So firstly, good hygiene. That is critical. Maintaining, even if you don't go for regular pedicures at home, you can do your own soaps. A lot of persons, and maybe you ladies may be guilty as well, a lot of persons have a foot spa.
Yeah.
And it's either under a bed, in a cupboard, on top a shelf.
Yeah.
And we never get it out. It is a good idea, and you were just talking about, the home remedies. Obviously, it's not something that has been scientifically proven that using apple cider vinegar or baking soda or Epsom salt is going to cure fungus.
Yeah.
A lot of persons come in and they tell me, I've been putting tea tree for the last how many weeks, but this fungus isn't going.
Yeah.
And yes, tea tree oil is an excellent agent, that would aid in helping with getting rid of a fungus, but just using pure tea tree on its own is not going to just get rid of the fungus.
Yeah.
So doing your basic clipping of your nails, because in some persons, they don't cut their toenails as often as they should. And I can't give a set time frame that you should cut your toenails, because each of us, our nails grow at different rates. Even the difference between our fingernails and toenails, they may grow at a different rate. So sometimes persons are not too bothered about that care, and they don't cut their toenails as often as they should, or they're busy, and it's just one of those things. The feet are generally neglected by many. So it's one of those things that they don't pay as much attention to. So if they wear whole shoes, there may be trauma from the nails being long and hitting in the footwear, and even in those pointy tip shoes. And that can also, be a factor that can contribute to trauma. And then as a result of that trauma, you have some semi-detachment, which then, is an avenue for the fungus. Another thing that contributes is ingrown toenails.
Yeah.
So if you have an ingrown toenail, that you can develop an infection, but also that is a portal for a fungal infection. Having cracked heels. So this is where maintenance of the feet is important. You can have a superficial crack, but if that crack is quite severe, where you can actually see, a bleed occurring, so it's in that severe stage, then that, besides an infection, you can also develop a fungal infection because it's a portal for a fungal, element to get in. Something as Trinese that we love to do is walk barefooted. So that is a simple way that we can develop a fungus, and that's a simple way that we could prevent. And it's something that I have fights with patients all the time, because there's always the argument, well, what about grounding? You're supposed to connect with the earth. So that's why I walk barefooted.
Please.
And it's something from childhood that if it's not instilled in you, you grow up and it's a custom, and it's a habit that's hard to break. So in our daily operations, we have to look at the things we do or don't do that would contribute. As I said, the changing of the socks. Then in children, I've found that a lot of boys, it's not something that their parents are aware of until they get into my chair and we're having discussions. After school, if they're waiting on whatever transport, they may take off their shoes and socks and play barefoot football. And, parents are like, how did you get this? I don't understand what's going on here. Those that are swimmers, those that play varied sports, do different activities, those are elements as well. There's dance. A lot of persons may be into dance, and depending on what they're doing, may require times that they're barefooted. In some workout sessions, persons may be on a mat and they're barefooted, and other persons are utilizing the same mat or the same area. So that impacts as well. Nail polish. So some men would utilize clear nail polish if they go to pedicure appointments, but if we focus on the ladies, we love colors, we love designs on our nails. And having that on, it makes us feel good. It makes us quite happy. As a podiatrist, I can't focus on my fingernails. So I don't have it on all the time, but I love seeing a nice bright color on my toenails. And what happens is that we often just have that on for extended periods, and as a result, we can't see what's going on with our nails. So that's another factor. So we have something that looks pretty, but we don't know what lies beneath. And it's important that we focus on that. Something that is quite common now is the gel nails, the gel polish, because it lasts longer. But in so doing, it means that persons tend to keep it on longer. And if there is anything that is occurring, how are we able to detect it? So it's important that in between we give our nails a rest, and that in between pedicures we have a look, not just allowing your nail technician or your pedicurist to just go through their process. You have to see what's going on with your feet and your nails as well.
Oh God, and that spoke to so many people.
I know, because it's not the first time I'm hearing about that nail polishing, and especially leaving nail polish on long. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Not only will you not know what's going on underneath your nail, but the nail polish itself can sometimes cause like discoloration of your nail and issues that can lead to that nail fungus further down the line.
You're quite correct.
Good. Yes. But I actually I have a quick backstory that leads to my next question, right?
So, I love stories.
So there was a point in time, this was like many years ago, I went sailing, and I hit my foot on the boat, and some part of the boat lifted my nail, right? blood everywhere. It was severe. I was in so much pain. I will never forget that type of pain. Oh my God. Like when you have a healthy nail that just gets ripped out, right? So that happened, and I cleaned it, bandaged it up, whatever. I didn't go to the hospital or anything. I was able to deal with it, but it was really bad. And my nail, like, it took a while to grow back, right? But when it started growing back, it didn't grow back like fully. It grew back very very wet. It didn't reach the full length
of your toe.
You know, and that lasted like many years. And I remember when it started to grow back, something happened again, and the nail got ripped out. So I think my toe just became traumatized, right? I would assume, because it happened twice back to back before the nail was able to heal fully. So by the second time it happened, right, and then my toenail was so ugly, right, I decided to go and I was putting acrylic on my toe.
Very typical.
Yeah. So I would put acrylic, and I would always have acrylic on my toe so that I could have pretty toes. And then it got to a point where I realized my toenails started to turn gray. It started to turn gray. And I stopped putting the acrylic just to see what was going on. And then as it will grow, a certain part of it will always grow back gray. And it will be very soft, and I'll always have to clip it and clip it. So then I was like, you know what, forget this. I'm going to put more acrylic on it because clearly it's not growing back properly. And then eventually I started to get like a stench from the toenail. TMI, sorry to my viewers.
It was real.
So I started to get a stench from it, and I'm like, okay. So I pulled off the acrylic, and I'm seeing like the discoloration, there's a stench. I'm like, okay, probably an infection. And I did the whole thing with the apple cider vinegar. I did a soak with some water. This was from a Google search. I did water, apple cider vinegar, and Epsom salt in warm water, and I soaked it. The stench went away. Obviously, the discoloration was still there, but my mom was like, just leave it open. But my problem is I teach swimming, so I'm constantly in a pool, which is why I also believe my toe was not able to heal fully, properly, because I could not stay out of the pool. And but so that's the backstory with my experience with this whole nail fungus thing, and it wasn't fun, right? Especially if your toenail has a stench. You have to be so careful, because you're like,
it's horrible.
And going into public space. Public space is terrifying, because I know it's there, and I don't want anybody to smell and like, what's that smell? It's coming from my foot. What? So my question, you know, what are the early signs that people should look out for when suspecting that they have nail fungus, right? So like with me, it was the discoloration, the stench. What are the other signs that we can look out for? Early signs to deal with it.
So sometimes persons, they may have a superficial fungus, and you would see like a white, some white, it's not necessarily streaky, but you'd see a bit of white on the nail that looks like a chalky sort of element. You can see the nail starting to turn yellow, or it may start to darken. You can see underneath looks green. And that's a very severe stage. The nail oftentimes starts to get crumbly. So it gets really crumbly, and oftentimes when it's in that crumbly stage, that's where you also find you would get an odor as well. Some persons would then see it starts to get really thick, and those are elements. Then it can start in one nail and it can spread. So that's why it's really important when you see those, elements existing, that you start treating to try to reduce that risk. And then there are other things that you need to do. You need to sanitize your footwear. So you need to get a a shoe spray so that you can sanitize, because you're then putting your feet into that, if you're wearing closed footwear, into that footwear over and over. So that is important. You also should not at all, it doesn't matter if you have a fungal infection or not, but you should not at all wear anyone else's footwear, because then that is also a factor, right? As you mentioned, the pool, that is, an area that, because of that constant moisture and even, showering at the pool shower, it is a factor as well that can contribute. Even on holiday, I'm like, oh my God, I hope housekeeping at this hotel is really good, because there's a place as well that you can pick it up. So the early signs, the thickening of the nail, the changes to the color, the stench, those are factors.
This entire conversation has hit me. I feel it when we speak about it. I feel it.
It's in every element of our day-to-day life that you're at risk, literally.
Scary. That's kind of scary.
Yeah. It's scary, but it's real, and that is why we want to highlight it, because I think we have all gone through, if not this, or know somebody that has gone through something like this. So with foot fungus, it's common. As we said, it is common, but I don't think we draw enough attention to it to say, how are we going to deal with it? Because a lot of people do home remedies. So would you recommend these home remedies, or do you think nail fungus is something that we should take more seriously?
So I'm not opposed to the home remedies. However, it is important to get an antifungal. So it can come in the form of a drop, it can come in the form of a cream, a gel, lacquers, which you basically polish on. And in some instances, persons may also need to take antifungal tablets as well. But with that, it is important to see what the person's liver function is, because they have to have a good liver function to be able to utilize oral antifungal. I want to ask you ladies something though. Are either of you all masqueraders or former masqueraders? No? What kind of trees are you on? What about cotton?
I am just not into the sun and the chipping down the road in hot sun.
I'm not a partier either. All right. But, I mean, a large portion of our population, and I mean, it's band launching season. We're seeing all the pretty costumes. Even if you don't play, I'm a former masquerader, stopped many years ago. But even if you don't play, definitely, you would have had a peek at some of the costumes. And carnival time is an exciting time for the average Trini. Persons, the fetes, the playing of the mass, and it's a time that, we feel free, we feel really, ecstatic. Oh my gosh, it's that time of year. And that is the time that a lot of persons end up with the fungal infections. Because there's that trauma. You go to a fete and someone is jumping up and they mash your toe, and because we into the all-inclusives now, people are dressing up, looking their best. So sometimes the type of footwear that would create that trauma to your feet, it's unreal. You feel like everything in your body just goes through shock when you get that trauma from someone mashing you with their shoes. And then playing mass, you're on the road, as you mentioned, the hot sun, as well as it's a very long distance that most persons on an average day would not cover. So you're chipping down the road, you're dancing, you're having a time, you mash persons, they mash you, and sometimes it's a few weeks down the road you realize, oh my gosh, look, my nail is lifting off. Or you see the initial issue, which is called a hematoma, where you'd see the nail starting to turn, it looks red, and then it starts to turn black, which is a bleed between the nail and the nail bed. And due to that, that can create that semi-detachment of the nail. Sometimes, as was indicated earlier in your story time, that the nail lifted off. And because of that, that predisposed to a fungus as well. So you have that element. We have the period of the year where there are a lot of 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. So runners are preparing, those who walk in, they're preparing, and the right type of footwear, the right type of sneakers for the particular discipline that you're doing, that is critical. You have footwear for each sporting discipline, for walking, for running, and if we don't adhere to that and look at the toe box area, that impacts. Because I can't see, your feet, and that's something I usually like if I'm doing an interview. I don't know if either of you all have on pointy tip shoes, if either of you all are wearing heels. Guilty, right? And so then there's that fashion element that contributes. So the pointy tip shoes can create trauma to the toes as well. And that is another element of, where we can experience problems in terms of trauma and then a fungal infection or ingrown toe.
I think that's why, like, any chance I get, I will take off my shoe. Because no matter, like, when I work in, I wear closed toe, flats or heels, whatever it is, but I cannot keep my shoes on for long. If I'm like right now, I have my shoes off. I'm barefoot, right? My shoe is
so that's why you have to ensure you don't get a fungus with a stent.
So like I wouldn't walk around barefoot. So like once I get off the chair, I slip my foot back into my shoe to walk to my desk. But I'm not gonna walk. I'm not gonna walk barefoot. As I'm sitting, I'm just letting my foot air out a little bit as it's like swinging on the chair. But I can't. I just can't keep shoes on for that long. But I would not walk barefoot. I just can't keep my shoes on if I'm sitting.
It's kind of scary to walk barefoot. But I do have some sort of rapid fire questions as we come to a close. But my first question before the rapid fire questions would be. We're speaking about feet right now, but what about women specifically who wear like those long fake nails? Do those pose any sort of problem when it comes to fungus?
Yes, bacteria, you're predisposed to it. And our fingers and our nails are among the dirtiest parts of our body. It stores a lot of bacteria there. So yes, you're definitely at risk. And then trauma could occur, and how do you clean it properly? So you have to be careful with it. It may look appealing, but you have to be careful, and you also in the same way have to let the nails, your natural nails, breathe in between, right? So nails get dehydrated, because remember, polish, or if it's acrylic or gel based, those things are chemicals. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, because that was just something I was wondering, because I know when you have on those nails, you start to see the dirt, and you could wash your hands 50 times a day, and it's still, by the time you lay down to sleep at night, it's still gonna have dirt under your nails. And to me, I wonder, that's why I kind of stopped wearing nails, because I always wonder, like, how am I cleaning properly? Am I cleaning properly? What's correct procedure? So that was something that ran across my brain.
I think before we do the quick fire questions, I just want to, I had two back to back, you could probably answer it. We were speaking about something before, and I wanted to ask, it's right there, I kind of lost it. Let me ask the other one.
No problem.
So if a nail fungus is ignored or left untreated, what are some of the implications that could happen? I would assume they could be severe. I always thought, you might lose your toe, eventually lose your toe. I mean, if you leave a nail fungus untreated for an extended period of time, can that happen?
So, particularly in the diabetic population, what can happen is that the fungus can spread. So if it spreads interdigitally between the toes, then you can get athlete's foot that basically looks like you have a pit between the toes, where a hole develops. And even in terms of on the nail bed itself, it can become so crumbly and get down where the nail starts detaching on its own because it's crumbly with that fungus. And that can become quite severe.
Yeah. I think when you said hole,
it's not that you can get a nail fungus. Go ahead.
No. When you said a hole,
graphic. I had
the picture.
Visualize it.
And I know it's real, but gosh.
So it's not that you get a nail fungus and your toe has to become amputated, but if it becomes quite severe, it's a lot more than that can occur, which can lead to severe issues, which is not we can't leave amputation out. Yes,
right.
And sometimes with a nail fungus, you have to remove the person's toenail. So sometimes I have to do nail surgery because you mentioned earlier with a part of your nail coming off. And so sometimes I have to do nail surgery to remove the whole nail because it's detrimental. And if it's left there, it can rip off. Sometimes you could cut back a bit, but it can also rip off. And then, yes, you have a crime scene because it's so much blood, and then you have a wound site which could get infected, which then could lead to a serious problem.
Does it grow back afterwards? Like if you have a surgery like that, does it grow back?
Yes. So you're removing the nail, but the nail does grow. What is not guaranteed, if depending on the nature of the trauma that occurred to the nail, then it's not guaranteed how the nail would grow.
Yeah.
But
like what happened in my case,
the nail
where
would
it
grow
didn't.
out totally.
Yes. It didn't grow back fully. It kind of grew back. It grew back kind of slanted, and it just didn't grow out evenly. And then the issue where my nail, it got ripped out twice when it was growing back. It got ripped out again. So then it cannot happen because I assumed my toe was now traumatized, and it just prevented the growth because it just didn't grow back for like probably some years.
So that can happen, and it's one of those things that if you have trauma to an area, it would just be the area that it happens with. Again, a young child, a dog, you somehow end up hitting a door frame. It's just things like that would tend to happen as well to the same nail.
Yeah. So I actually remember my question really quickly. So if somebody has that issue where they have a chipped nail, a lifted nail, or the nail is completely off, now people can't just stop their lives and not wear shoes or leave the area open. I know you have to leave the area open to breathe, but what is the best way to deal with that, to prevent the infection or to prevent an infection from occurring?
So depending on the stage it's at, like if it's just a bit chipped, you try to cut whatever area that is semi-detached or detached, you try to cut that bit back. And if there's any oozing to the area, then you may need to cover it with some gauze or a plaster. But other than that, it's getting into treating the fungus. That is what is critical at that stage.
So you can use your gauze, cover it. Can you still wear your shoes to go to work?
Yes.
Or is it?
So the sanitizing of the shoes is what is key.
Okay, and then taking off your shoes at the end of the day, letting it breathe.
But in some instances, if there is a lot of trauma to the area, then if your workplace may not allow you based on their policies to wear open toe, then you may need to seek the professional help in terms of getting documentation to wear for a period of time just to let the nail settle.
Okay.
All right, so quick rapid fire questions. What would you say is the biggest myth about foot care that you've come across in your career?
Biggest myth? Oh, you said rapid and I'm being slow here. Biggest myth.
You want to come back to that one?
All right, yes. Let me think about it.
All right. The underbed of your nail, in terms of your feet, do you need to wash? Well, of course, wash your feet every single day. But sometimes you have to go under with like a little
nail file or so.
To like get gunk out. Let's be honest. How important is that?
So it is important to clean, the nail, but it's not important to go, like if you're digging for provision from the earth, because some persons get really crazy and obsessed with, clearing their out, and they can also cause trauma to the nail bed. So it is important to do a basic cleaning when you're trimming your nails, but not overdo with constantly getting in it there, because you could cause trauma and, you know, affect the nail bed.
All right. What new treatments or any kind of innovation in podiatry are you seeing right now that makes you very excited?
I am always excited about orthopedic footwear, and because a lot of persons think of, you know, those horrible looking boots, terrible shoes, I'm usually excited to show patients that there are sandals, there are slippers, footwear in general that are a lot more stylish, that can be worn to help prevent foot and spinal issues or to help manage it. Biomechanics is a critical area, which speaks to the way our gait, the way we walk, how our body functions, the way things go. There is an area that, you know, I have at conferences heard a lot about, but obviously I haven't been able to function. It's function in that realm. It's looking at the feet, using the feet in terms of forensics. So forensic podiatry. I think that's an area that's exciting.
That's very interesting. Can you, I just thought it's very interesting. I just wanted to tack back to the myth, if you remember it at all.
Right. A myth is that you can, when you think you could put on any size footwear, even if it's 2 sizes smaller than your feet because it's a cute shoe, or you believe, though I indicate that your feet aren't shaped like an upside down V, you believe that a pointed tip shoe is what you're born to wear. Persons believe that they can miraculously heal anything with soft candle or wonder of the world.
As the West Indian and we.
Yes.
All right. So finally, what message would you like to leave with viewers about taking care of our hands and our feet?
Right. So our feet mirror our health, and it is an important element of the body. It's what carries our whole skeletal structure. Our lower extremities, from the lower back to the feet, are impacted if we make bad decisions. It's impacted due to genetics as well, and due to our activities. So we have to maintain, you know, good foot hygiene, wear proper footwear, ensure that we manage our weight, because that impacts as well in terms of how much pressure is put on the feet. We have to look at our veins. A lot of us may have varicose veins issues, we may have issues with the nerves. So our feet are really important that we look after it, we check into it, because it mirrors what can be happening in the body. From the feet, you can see things that may help you understand, oh, maybe I could have diabetes, maybe I could have issues with the veins. There's so many things it can indicate.
All right, beautiful. Thanks so much for joining us on AM Prime on WSN this morning, Ms. Huntley.
Before we wrap, I just want to let everybody know, so if you want to check out the Almawi Clinic, and
thank you for having me.
Of course. So they have a Instagram, a social media, Almawi Limited, the Podiatry Clinic. So if you have a nail fungus, anything that you want to check out with your feet, this is the place to go to.
Yes.
So they are located, I hope I get this right, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, Buena Vista Street East, St. Joseph. So they're located in St. Joseph.
All right, so
right.
I mean, I think the name
The
comes
name
up
is
on
there, yes. So you can search them up on Instagram or on Google, and it will come up, Almawi Limited, the Podiatry Clinic.
All right. So thank you again, Ms. Huntley. To our viewers, that was Ms. Leanna Huntley, podiatrist at Almawi Clinic, reminding us. Of course. I think there's a little bit of a delay. I think that's what's happening. But reminding us that good health really does start from the ground up. Boom. I just had to say that. So our health is the foundation of our mobility and our independence, and taking care of it is detrimental. Ms. Huntley, thank you for joining us this morning, and we look forward to continuing conversations like these with you.
Okay.
There's a delay there. But yes, so as always, as we wrap, you can engage with us on WESN TV, WESN CC, or you can WhatsApp us at 682-9376, 682-9376. If you want to engage with either myself or Naomi, we have Naomi on Instagram at Naomi McNish and myself on Instagram at I am Jada McLeod. As always, we have a quote for you guys today. I came across this one in my studies throughout the weekend, and I just really like it. It is by Henry Ward Beecher. It says, "No matter what looms ahead, if you can eat today, enjoy the sunlight today. Mix good cheer with friends today, enjoy it and bless God for it. Do not look back on happiness or dream of it in the future. You are only sure of today. Do not let yourself be cheated out of it." Do not let yourself be cheated out of it. You are in control.
Yeah.
You are in control.
All right, guys. So that brings us to the end of our program this morning. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe, stay inspired, stay informed, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Welcome to ASTI, Advanced Solutions Technical Institute. We offer hands-on training in drone technology, fiber optics, hybrid, security, business support, and more. Our programs are built to equip you with real-world skills for today's evolving industries. Get certified, get hired, and take your career to the next level with ASTI. Call 778-2135 or email info@astitnt.com. ASTI, where learning meets opportunity.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today. KDM Health Limited says, test yourself for STDs in the privacy of your own home. Our self-help test kits for all STDs are available at our wholesale office in Chaguanas. Call 283-1423, visit our website at www.kdmhealthtt.com or email us at kdmhealthlimited@gmail.com to place your orders. Available at all health institutions and pharmacies. Contact us for a free list of products and prices.
I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond
wanna-
to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I'll ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
WESN.
Well, more things change, more things stay the same. Sean Michael Small, this is talking about opening the week with, I just need to point out that, you know, there was a little bit of rain yesterday. And with a little bit of rain comes, at times, a little bit of flood. And by a little bit of flood, I mean, in this case, potentially a lot of flooding. Ironically, I was not just staying at home yesterday, but I did not necessarily pass in downtown Port of Spain. So while, to some extent, I was traveling in the bad weather. It's very inconvenient, but it is what it is, right? I didn't necessarily witness firsthand the flooding in downtown Port of Spain. But then, of course, it begs the question with regards to when are we going to get this flooding thing fixed? To what extent is it damaging and causing losses in areas like downtown Port of Spain, where you might not have as much obvious low-hanging fruit fixes? Now, I don't know if perhaps there were watercourses that were clogged and the like. The problem with that, so it's twofold. If there's no low-hanging fruit fixes, then it's going to need some sort of investment, because this is just one of those things where you can't just take it for granted, or the Port of Spain floods and then the waters recede and everything is fine. You know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know what kind of structural damage semi-regular flooding like this would have on the structures in Port of Spain, right? But potentially, the current administration needs to be concerned about one thing with regards to flooding in the northwest of Trinidad and Tobago, and it is the appearance of being neglectful. Not actually being neglectful, right? I'm not saying they are or they're not, because they don't have to be neglectful to be perceived and to be labeled as being neglectful, right? So now the question, and this is one that the previous administration, to some extent, failed perception-wise at, and that is with regards to whichever local government body that I do not control and whichever constituency I don't have the MP for, how will my administration look with regards to doing work there, or the lack thereof? Because to some extent, there were complaints by UNC-led local government bodies about funding issues, about full allocations not being granted. The hidden truth behind the matter was that there were P&M local government bodies that maybe did not have issues of the same severity. Maybe they did. Regardless, they also had budgetary issues and allocation issues. The difference is because they were P&M and not UNC, they couldn't speak out about it, right? And it was one of those cases where the then administration may have been neglectful in a sense, but neglectful to local government bodies on a whole. Not entirely sure if the neglect was greater on the UNC side than on the P&M side. But that doesn't matter, because for the most part, because they successfully used very low-level thinking of politics, that is to say, well, oh, yes, P&M, or you can't complain and make us look bad. So because they essentially did that, from my vantage point, it leaves them open to be perceived, and reasonably so, and I believe this is basically what happened, that UNC-led local government bodies were more or less being more neglected than P&M-led ones, right? Look at the THA situation. The TPP has to some extent successfully framed the interaction with the central government led by the Dr. Thrawley administration as not doing enough for Tobago. But the key point was it had nothing to do whether the TPP was in charge or the P&M was in charge, because the allocations were the same. So one could argue they were treating Tobago as they normally would. And with regards to relative to population size, it was not necessarily outside the bounds of, strictly speaking, in terms of per capita, it was fair. Now, granted, Tobago has more financial needs that makes the requirement perhaps a higher level than, say, most citizens in Trinidad, because it's just more complex being a second island, right? And there's more expense to it. Now you could debate to what extent that carries on an extra premium on top of a standard rate across the board per capita per citizen. But the point is, even though technically speaking, the P&M administration was more or less treating Tobago just as badly before, perception-wise, I do think a lot of people started to view it as a TPP Farley Augustine Tobago versus central government Trinidad, despite the fact that, again, the level of treatment kind of remained the same. And maybe that, in a way, that was enough for people to still be upset. Now, this administration has a somewhat similar situation in Port of Spain, where it doesn't matter if they have done a reasonable amount of work for Port of Spain or not. At least, I don't know if we've seen it. I don't know if it's been published, and I don't know if it's been accepted enough. And if you don't see the Minister of, well, I guess you could say works, you can't really put local, well, no, local government should cover Port of Spain Corporation like, right? So if you don't see the Minister of Local Government, not so much rural development, but local government, on the ground in the Port of Spain floods, if this happens enough times, you're going to get a perception deficit. And this is where it starts. This is how it starts. And it's important to note that the P&M strongholds, flush with P&M supporters, are already going to be word-of-mouth spokespersons ready for an excuse to detract from the current administration. And then now a lot of the voters that did not vote for the P&M, that in theory also did not vote for the UNC, well, they're just waiting in the wings for a reason to come back. They were not necessarily content with how the P&M was doing business, but they didn't support the new administration at the polls. They stayed away, which means that they are ripe for being welcomed back into the fold. So, and the thing is, the key point is, if you allow this perception deficit to occur, the opposition party doesn't have to do anything. They just reap the benefits. So this is one of the tricky things about government, because the P&M in its base level amateurism with regards to national governance and politics did a lot of shooting themselves in the foot. That's why I said this is where it starts. It doesn't have to start with a big scandal. It just starts with what seems like a simple decision, straightforward, but at the end of the day, have you thought out all of the implications? And that's why it's not easy. That's why your party political skills fall short when you come up on the national stage. So now we'll wait and see how they respond to that. Meanwhile, something that Karen should be somewhat happy to hear, but I do wonder if this is kind of taking too long. The Minister, well, the Permanent Secretary Ministry of Tourism is aiming to have beach chair vendors regularized, this is in Maracas, by the first quarter of 2026. Again, so there was an incident of violence recently. Even without that, I'll be honest, why did it take this long for anybody to think, oh, wait, maybe there's a problem here, right? Why does it take for a man to be beaten on video, which implies what happened that wasn't caught on video before? And this should not take legislation. This should not take that big of a bite in any sort of tourism budget in order to deal with, right? Because part of the reason why the problem has reached this point is it was neglected. Now, granted, it was neglected by your predecessors, but to some extent now, I don't know how reasonable it is to have expectations on issues like this, issues that are on a level like this, where arguably one could say, well, it shouldn't necessarily take that long. And depending on who your permanent secretary is, your staff members in your various line ministries are, like, I don't know. I think this is somewhat telling that we have never heard of a story where there was a mid-level person or even a low-level person in a ministry who, for whatever reason, was tasked to, or on their own time, looking at an issue and coming up with theoretical solutions, not necessarily anything with large amounts of financial resources committed to study the problem, but just looking at the situation to analyze it. Because at the very least, one would think that if you're the line ministry of a situation like this, and there's an issue there, you would at the very least be aware of it and will be looking at it even if you don't implement any solutions. The point is, notice how there is no story that as far as I am aware, no ministry was like, well, we were studying a problem, but we couldn't get budgetary approval for the solutions. Nobody was waiting in the wings with we know what's going on, and we at least have an idea how to fix it. It seems as though everything is, well, we had to examine it from the ground up, do the full work now, because it's almost like if nobody has a clue, including the staff that's been working in these line ministries and government entities, I don't know, for the last 10 years, were they all replaced? Do they all not have a clue about what's been going on with their areas of responsibilities? It's similar to when the then Minister of Works, Ron Sinanan, back in the very beginning of the Keith Rowley administration, said something the press had floored me. I don't understand why the ferry service is giving trouble all of a sudden. Because within the first 6 months, they lost the cargo boat, and the ferry service was also not necessarily up to scratch to take up the load. And the minister seemed to be totally oblivious to what was going on with the ferry service. And he's 6 months in. This is not like a minor sub-corner of his portfolio. And then was nobody in the Ministry of Works also aware of what's going on in order to brief him? A lot of what happened over that situation probably could have been briefed to him in half a day. But he was completely unaware. It seemed like nobody was willing to tell him what was going on. And he was so unaware, he went to the media and stated he was unaware, believing it to be justifiably so, probably because to him, we were all taken by surprise. No! A lot of people who regularly use the ferry for years knew that there were issues with the ferry, but the line minister didn't. What were the ministry officials that were supposed to work underneath him doing for him in that situation, on top of his own ignorance and willingness to speak to the press in ignorance? So I find it disheartening, and I think it's telling with regards to the public sector. And I'm not necessarily surprised, because even the good workers will be de-incentivized to sticking their neck out in order to say, hey, we have this, that, or the other. How do we solve this problem? Because if the mayor of Port of Spain, or former mayor of Port of Spain, will essentially be cussed out by the Prime Minister, from what I was told, because he was making other members of the party in official positions look bad because he was actually trying to do his job, well then, who are little worker bees? It's not like, you know, members of the government have not been known to fire people willy-nilly. Look, we have 2 central bank governors fired in such a extraordinary fashion, let me put it that way. So anyway, I started off with the beach chair things. Yes, it's nice. But this is one of those things where, wait, why did it take so long? Why? Why did it take so long? And I don't know if you're like timing things in order to get your best press. What is it? This should be a low-hanging fruit situation for the Ministry of Tourism. Right? This is not something that needed that amount of level of patience and study. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I am underestimating the limitations of the abilities of the public service as a body, not the individuals in it. Anyway, we do have a couple of big ticket stories to get to. Not necessarily. There is a situation with regards to United States deployment in the Caribbean area, not entirely sure where, right? But the U.S. Southern Command apparently is getting some work, some questionable work right now. Borderline, the legality will be questionable. But I'll get to that tomorrow. What I want to get to today, there's 2 stories that have been linked together because they have been used, according to Minister of Legal Affairs Saddam Hussein, as cannon fodder with regards to the debate of stand your ground laws and FULs. Ironically, neither of these situations, as far as I am aware, have anything to do with stand your ground laws, but they do have to do with FULs, which informally have been tacked on, ideologically speaking, in principle, but not actually as part of the legislation, I would imagine, right? But informally, it's been kind of associated with the stand your ground situation. So first there was the attempted robbery where a gentleman in his 60s, he was washing his car by a spring, 66-year-old man, washing his van, by a spring, and another vehicle pulled up. 2 young men from that vehicle basically attempted to rob him. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because based on the reports, the 2 young men physically accosted him. He drew his gun. He was lucky that he was able to get some rounds off. He was lucky that the gun wasn't wrestled away from him. So I don't know if there was a moment where he got separation from his assailants. Anyway, he drew his gun, he fired from some shots. The driver, I believe she was the driver, but the last person in the attempted robbery, who was, I believe, in the driver's seat or in the car, was shot in the head, a young woman. And then one of the other 2 assailants, again, 2 young men, this one was eventually discovered by authorities when he went to the hospital to seek medical assistance. 23-year-old young man was shot and while being treated died of his injuries, right? It could have been in part because it was sometime after he was wounded, he got a family member to take him to the hospital, right? Now, the gentleman, upon hearing that the young woman was killed because she was shot in the forehead, he was visibly upset, and rightfully so. I'm not looking to blame him here. I don't think he necessarily did anything wrong. It is, however, in a very tricky subjective space, because as far as I'm aware, it was not reported that he was fired upon or attacked with a deadly weapon. And arguably now, this is where it gets very subjective. Did the use of force by the assailants constitute to a level of force where you had a reasonable fear for your life? And here is where it gets even trickier, because as was said in some of these consultations, so you have to be fair, do you really want to wait until you're immediately going to be killed before you look to defend yourself? Especially when it's I believe the other assailant might have been a young man, or at least younger than the potential victim at 66 years old. Are you going to wait and hope that it doesn't escalate to deadly force, and you'll just take your blows? Hope they don't find your gun and use it against you. So the use of deadly force is technically subjective. I don't fault the elderly gentleman at all. If I was in a such situation, I would probably do the same thing, because you don't know how far they're going to go once they start to physically accost you. And at 66, it's not going to take that much for you to lose your life just by a physical beating. The reason why I say he's justifiably upset is because that is a natural human reaction. I'm fairly certain this elderly man, first of all, he probably wasn't even aiming at the car, right? You're aiming at the two guys attacking you, but if they're within the same line, these kinds of things had happened. And he probably didn't want to kill anybody in his life. This is probably the first time he's killed anybody. This sort of psychological reaction is one of the things that at the end of the day, it's bound to happen to everyday people who utilize a lethal weapon to defend themselves. The other situation is similarly tragic in a sense, but even more so because the deceased was not perpetrating any sort of crime. Essentially, there was an altercation or a disagreement, to say the least, over a parking spot by a vendor stand. One party pulled knives, the other party got stabbed, pulled his gun, I believe he was a prison officer, fired rounds at the assailants. It hit a third party, an elderly woman this time, who I guess was in the backfield of the rounds fired, right? The commissioner has said, you know, don't be too quick to judge. I agree with him here, especially given the fact that the prison officer was interviewed by the police in the hospital with a knife wound. I believe it was reported in his neck. So it's understandable. The problem with more FULs in the hands of the public is not just about unjustifiable shootings, but the fact that you could have people die in justifiable ones. Now, legally speaking, did the woman in the robbery in the first story have to die? No, she didn't have to die in order to defend themselves. But unfortunately, that's how what I interpret as a reasonable altercation with the victim defending himself, that's the result. And in this case, a third party got killed. I don't think the shooters in either story, at least based on the report so far, were unjustifiable. But still, the net result is people died. People died. In one case, someone that is potentially, I don't know if she was connected to either party or not, potentially totally innocent to the situation. I may have missed that detail. So when the opposition wants to bring these things up, I do think that Minister Saddam Hussein needs to needs to be a little bit more aware that yes, obviously the opposition is going to use this as cannon fodder to present a contrarian argument or political opinion. However, it still does not negate the fact that these are technically unfortunate consequences of private firearms being used to defend yourself. And this is where, ironically, the standing ground law wouldn't necessarily come to play, because it's technically more like a castle doctrine law with regards to your homes and or your property. This is different. You're out there in a place where they should have a right to be. You're in a place where you should have a right to be. Now, being robbed, it's kind of coming close to the standing ground law. Disputing over a parking spot and having an altercation over it, that is just ridiculous, especially when, you know, one party decides we're going to pull knives. But these sorts of things will happen. They will happen. And the thing is, I'm not saying these are reasons to not give out private firearms, but I am saying let's not now be hypocritical and want to say, how could this happen and this shouldn't be so? Well, this is a means to defend yourself. Hold on, let's take the comment. Please don't try these cases on your program, let currently decide. I'm not trying the cases on my program. I'm saying my opinion, right, where there was violence happened, and I'm not even looking to say what the outcome of the case should be. I gave my opinion on the case. I think it's justifiable. I think it's understandable. I think it's objective. This is so let's go to that step. This is the other complication. It is subjective. There is a world where in one or both of these cases, depending on how the law is interpreted, how the arguments are given by the respective lawyers for the defense and the prosecution, or defense and plaintiff, right, that the shooters, they could lose a court matter or they could win. That's up to the courts to decide. But it's not a 0% chance that the shooters might lose in court, whether it's a criminal case or a civil case. It's not a 0% chance. So now, both shooters, whether reasonable or not, depending on your opinion, have technically opened the door for some kind of legal proceedings, right? I'm not saying that it's going to happen. They might not even be prosecuted. They might not be, the investigation might say nothing to see here, it was fine, right? That's up to the police, up to the DPP, up to, whatever evidence is gathered, etc., etc. And there might not be no civil case on the matter, wrongful death or whatever. They may or may not, right? There might not be no court matters over it. But to say that there will absolutely be no court matters, I can't say that now. And that's the thing, I did say it's subjective. It's subjective because it's not clearly obvious. The old man wasn't shot at, as far as I'm aware, and I said based on reporting from before. So if he was shot at, then it's clearly obvious there's nothing to see here and he shoots back, right? But the problem is, a lot of times, reasonableness is not always the same thing as obvious. Because otherwise, if that was true, the law would probably say obvious. So no, I'm not trying the cases. What I am saying is, regardless of the innocence or guilt of the shooters, and I do think that they're not guilty of any crime, but regardless, the real issue is private firearms. These are examples of private firearms being used to defend yourself in a reasonable way, and people ended up dead. I don't want now the same people that want the firearms to start crying over it. And in one of those cases, the deceased was not, as far as I'm aware, party to the altercation or involved in the altercation in any physical way. So let's be aware of what we're asking for, because this is the compromise between security and freedom, right? And in this case, having FULs is not security, it's freedom. It is an ideological concept that is technically on the side of giving more freedoms to the public. The right to defend yourself and to use lethal force to do so, as opposed to security in this equation, which is more government control and prohibitions, right? This is, the more freedoms you give people, the more potential there are for bad consequences, and they don't all have to be intentional. They could be all unintentional in theory. You're still gonna have them. You're still gonna have outcomes that are unfortunate, and we have to be willing to accept that if we want to open things up more, as opposed to try to calm things down and keep things tight. So, technically speaking, ironically, and this is somewhat interesting thought, the current consultations technically don't matter with regards to cases like this, right? Because these cases actually happen without the new stand your ground legislation. The question then is that we have to ask ourselves is, will we be willing to accept a larger number of cases like this? Because potentially that could happen. It's not guaranteed to happen, so that's the catch. We don't have a guarantee to say that we could have easy math and say, well, the number of unintended deaths by firearms used to defend members of the public reasonably are going to increase by 50%. There's no figure like that to say that we'll know for sure what's going to happen and then make a decision. No, we kind of have to hope that it doesn't happen. It could escalate and increase the number by leaps and bounds or by nothing at all. Are we more than willing to take the risk in order to have this legislation and the somewhat increased rights, as well as the potential increase in access to firearms, go through? The potential increase to access is kind of tricky because to what extent are they actually going to increase access or just make things more efficient and streamlined, right? And a society needs to figure that out because the problem is what tends to happen with any society is you kind of wait for the bad outcomes to happen and then you say, oops, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Unfortunately, usually, and this is why people get angry at things like this, people would die in that scenario and they're already dead. You can't bring them back. That's why situations like Paria needed to be taken more seriously than how the previous administration took it. Because up until 2 months ago, there was another video with at least 200,000 views or more about the Paria incident. People commenting and judging our society on an international platform from international perspectives. You want to talk about negative press from YouTubers? Talk about that. And there were other videos. There's more than one YouTube video just on the Paria incident as a major failure of international safety and rescue and occupational health and safety and industrial accidents. And then people will comment, including foreigners. They will freely give their opinion to be read by other foreigners. And then we want to talk about how we're perceived out there. And things like this, situations like this may, if they go out of control, that is to say, FULs, standing ground laws, self-defense, etc., may, if they go out of control. There's no guarantees, we don't know for sure. We have to be willing to accept the unintended consequences that might happen in order to push these through. And I have no issue if the majority of the population says, yes, we're willing to do so, in which case, have at it, because that is democracy. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll welcome the media ambassador. We won't get to the daily review topics. There were some big topics, and we'll probably speak to some of them with the media ambassador, but we'll get into all that and more. Stay tuned. This is Talk About WSL. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome to ASTI, Advanced Solutions Technical Institute. We offer hands-on training in drone technology, fiber optics, hybrid, security, business support, and more. Our programs are built to equip you with real-world skills for today's evolving industries. Get certified, get hired, and take your career to the next level with ASTI. Call 778-2135 or email info@astitnt.com. ASTI, where learning meets opportunity.
KDM Health Limited says, test yourself for STDs in the privacy of your own home. Our self-help test kits for all STDs are available at our wholesale office in Chaguanas. Call 283-1423, visit our website at www.kdmhealthtt.com or email us at kdmhealthlimited@gmail.com to place your orders. Available at all health institutions and pharmacies. Contact us for a free list of products and prices.
I am Dr. Delphina Ovid, your friendly neighborhood dentist. At Community Hospital Dental Clinic, we offer examinations which include x-rays, basic oral cancer screening, and a treatment plan. We also offer cleanings, fillings, extractions, root canal treatment, and complete and partial dentures. Remember, you don't have to brush and floss all your teeth, just the ones you want to keep.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
It's a battle clash. First up is 90s R&B. Born in the golden era of rhythm and blues, this genre is all about smooth vocals, soulful harmonies, and that laid-back groove we all love. It's St. James Secondary versus presentation called it San Fernando. Who will bring the most soul to steel?
So next we're gonna dive into the depths of the maxi dub, straight from Jamaica's sound system culture. Dub is bass heavy, eco-filled, and hypnotic. Real vibes. All in here is from you know. But in this round, we're gonna have San Juan North Secondary versus Tranquility Bamboo Secondary. Oh, you know what I mean? It's groove versus groove.
Finally, the heat turns up with Afro beats, modern fusion from West Africa, blending African rhythms, hip-hop, and dancehall with pure celebration. Beverly, as Bishop Amnesty High School for the school, was head-to-head with St. Francis Girls College in a high-energy culture.
If these walls could talk, they'd cry uncle. They didn't plan to become offices or yoga studios, but they've stood by us, even when we got a little stir-crazy. For that, they deserve some thanks. They deserve Benjamin Moore.
Struggling with heart health or frequent migraines? Discover the simple steps to reclaim your energy and vitality.
We're diving into a topic that affects about 422 million people around the world. Diabetes.
Tune into Wellness Unlocked, the series that delivers expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your health and well-being. Your health matters. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and take the first step toward better health.
We're back here and talk about another WSND Connect. I will show Michael Small, joined by our TTPS Media Ambassador, Acting Assistant Superintendent Christopher Roon. Welcome once again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Sean. Good day to your viewers, yourself, and your staff.
Now, a lot has happened with regards to national security, some even on a grander scale.
Right.
Outside the nation, reports about America kind of doing the do. We'll see what comes out of that.
Right.
But locally, of course, there are a couple of big stories. One, I'm not too sure you could necessarily speak on. You're probably not involved in the whole situation with threats against public officials and the like. But one you can, to some extent, speak about. And there's an important point that may have gone, as I mentioned off air to you, that may have gone missing. The Independence Day celebrations were cancelled. So just to kind of touch on that, because as you said, there have been reports, and on your end you could confirm, that it's not as though the defense services, protective services weren't planning to have the parade. They were planning to have the parade,
of course,
but more or less it was cancelled. There are security concerns. One of the things you pointed out is it's a lot to have all of these national security people just kind of committed to this parade, right?
Correct, because based on the information of the commissioner, it does seem to be credible information that he and the government at this time has used the opportunity to warrant not having the parade. As I said before off air, we did have meetings up to last week, Wednesday, Thursday, about the parade, because we do have to dedicate time and resources to the parade, and therefore we attend meetings. It's a grand meeting. It involves all the stakeholders, civilians and military, and we have to, everything is at timing. So we have to prepare. We were preparing for also dress rehearsals and whatnot.
And all of this is going to have a lot of time commitment for thousands of personnel, right?
Yes, of course.
Including police officers,
police officers, prison officers, fire officers, defense force officers, the special reserve police officers, cadets and whatnot. And the involvement of this mass amount of officers in a particular place at a particular time may have taken away some attention from the fight against crime during an SOE.
Right.
And then you have the the population, the persons attending, the high priority persons attending, would have been at risk. So
because I was also of the mind, I didn't get a chance to speak about it before you came on. I was going to say, yes, I do wish that there would be like some sort of scale or alternative,
right,
but not anything that's outside in the public, because first of all, that could attract the crowd. And then it might be, in a way, even worse, because if it's scaled down, you're going to have a scaled down security presence to guard it. Yeah. And anybody, like whether you're outside Red House, outside President's house, you'll be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right?
It does seem that the information that they have is credible, because even though it is it's a public gathering, we do take special care in preparing the place. So we have special branch officers that come in, and the defense officers that come in, and they prepare the place, and they check for bombs and devices and whatnot, devices that might be hidden. We have dogs that can track both firearm ammunition and bomb devices, and whatever technology they use to make these devices and whatnot.
And then the fireworks display will be a similar thing. There'll be a lot of officers that have to be committed.
In the past, myself and my colleagues, especially in the task force and GB, we would have had to patrol and keep an eye on. So as the paramilitary force for the division, we had to concentrate on the Queen's Park Savannah during that period.
And then, of course, compounding that is the traffic issues that could also make responding to incidents or threats
difficult, yeah.
So, and that's the thing. With regards to the parade, it would have been outside President's house. Am I correct on this one? Or
the usual spot in Queen's Park Savannah?
Right.
Right. And
or would it be like on the other side? I can't remember which one.
Yeah, the grandstand.
Right.
The grandstand and well, there's no north stand, but there's the grandstand.
Yeah.
The parade would have been held there, and then our department, that's transport branch, would have provided vehicles to be part of the parade. So that's where we come in with the vehicles. My senior officer, Mr. Nichols, Superintendent Nichols, would have ridden the police vehicle on the parade. That's the he stands on the back of the vehicle, and then we join other vehicles at the end of the parade, and then we take a route. The route was already mapped through Port of Spain back to St. James Barracks.
Okay. Well, it's just one of those things where I understand people might be disappointed not celebrating independence.
Yeah, it was.
But
we were preparing to have a grand, event. We do invite children on board some of the like the buses.
Yeah.
So we have children that come in.
I guess it's just one of those things where think about it, right? We're gonna have a parade and do all the bells and whistles during a state of emergency. You know what I mean? It is just one of those things.
Well, based on the information they have, it seems so credible that they needed to postpone cancel the
and the thing is, here's one of the interesting things. We have concerns about Trinidad and Aragua. The U.S. has concerns about Trinidad and Aragua. The U.S. are deploying a Marine Expeditionary Unit in the Caribbean, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
Like, and then there's this whole situation with Venezuela. And smuggling.
And they just arrested.
And they just, So, like, the problem is we don't know. It's difficult. I think it would be difficult for the authorities, ladies and gentlemen, to not take these things seriously, because it seems as though the transnational organizations are kind of getting a little froggy, kind of getting a little frisky, kind of trying to do things, and they don't like being so exposed from multiple quarters. And the last thing we want to be is the unprepared ones and the obvious low-hanging fruit targets, because it's not like they could attack America, where they could come after us, right?
Yeah.
So in whatever way, at the end of the day, it's not like we're criminals that we're going to know how criminals think. Right? Don't expect them to be reasonable in their thinking. They're looking to...
Another important point to note is that with the parade, as I said, with the rehearsals, it's the same personnel. So you have the personnel who are on the ground, conducting these roadblocks, conducting these exercises, have to take time off from these duties to come to the parade and march and whatnot.
Because you can't just show up and like, all right, guys, how are we going to do this?
Exactly.
So it's not just the event, but also the time away from the state of emergency, which already is overworking police service.
Just want to say thanks, because from one SOE to the next SOE, all leave cancelled.
With carnival and elections in between.
Yeah.
Now, we also need to touch on, and again, I understand there will be a subsection of people that will say, well, why we are to read job free police for? But to some extent, you kind of have to work and do your part to help law enforcement and to uphold law and order, because we physically can't have police everywhere all the time, 24/7.
Yeah.
So now we're speaking about Neighborhood Crime Watch. This is not necessarily a new concept, right? But I guess you could say this is, to some extent, I don't necessarily want to say a new initiative, but...
No, it's an old initiative.
It's an
old program.
But it's being pushed.
Yeah, of course, because we're seeing some success with neighborhood watches. And quite recently, I think it was Saturday, Faizabad resident, he was at home, it was 5:30 in the evening. He was attacked, what media normally paints as home invasion.
Right.
We in law enforcement speak about it as a robbery with violence and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a technical crime.
Correct. So they came in, they robbed him of his gold chain. I think the value was $30,000. And they escaped. One had a firearm, they both were masked. And following the robbery, the victim was able to send out a WhatsApp message to the neighborhood watch group. And a defense force officer who was part of the group was able to see suspicious persons fitting the description, not too far away, walking. And he engaged them. One escaped, but he was able to hold one of the perpetrators with a firearm and recover the stolen jewelry. And he task force and the divisional task force and the CID were able to respond and apprehend that, take over that suspect from the defense force officer. The other one escaped, but hopefully with inquiries we'll be able to locate him.
But I mean, even just the fact that you were able to disrupt the whole cycle of robber, victim, escape, repeat, and recycle.
And the suspect was from the Faizabad area as well.
Right. You were able to catch the suspect. Even the escaped one now has to now consider, hey, it wasn't so easy because the last time we almost both got pinched.
Yeah.
So, and that's the kind of thing that we need to see. Like, this robbery, the assailants now face the consequence.
Right.
One got away, but to some extent, he might have gotten away free, but it was a close call for him.
And importantly, we were able to recover a firearm thanks to the security of the
even
defense force
better.
officer.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm sure they're going to be cynics that are going to say, well, not all of us have defense force or police officers living in our community to answer an offer. But a lot of communities will. A lot of communities will.
Yeah, the way law enforcement works, it's basically across the board. They all have the same demeanor and behavior when it comes to law enforcement. So you have prison officers on the ground, you have defense force officers on the ground, Coast Guard.
Everybody lives.
They live where everybody lives. They come from the community. You have police officers, SRPs, you have even civilian staff in the TTPS.
Right.
And they all operate like police officers.
And even if, let's say, it's civilian staff and they're not going to physically do anything,
Of course, no,
the point is they're going to have a certain amount of awareness.
Right.
And be like, this is the suspect, I was able to find them, they went so and so and
Right.
so
And if
to
you
help.
follow the protocols taught by the NCW, it's that you try to stay calm, gather as much information as possible as you can. Nobody's going to fault you if you can't.
Right.
Because it's traumatic to be robbed. It's
Yes.
traumatic to be involved in any crime.
Yes.
But whatever little information you have, especially like, let's say, tattoos, burn marks, birthmarks, whatever, that you can describe properly, you immediately call the police. The police takes the description and sends out an APB on the suspects. And if they are involved, like, with a vehicle. So, like, I'm part of police watch groups with on WhatsApp.
Right.
So besides our command center, so if I'm off duty, I get alerts saying, well, look out for this vehicle. So we had 4 suspicious men in 500, I think it was yesterday or the day before. And they were able to give out the vehicle number. So I, in my personal capacity, having gone out the road, was able to look out for this particular vehicle that may have had 4 suspicious men armed with firearms.
And this is one of those things where the whole point is, if the neighborhood is aware, first of all, you could look out, right? Let's put it this way, if someone just got their home invaded, and you live on their street, and your kid's out in the front yard, wouldn't you like to know as soon as possible, hey, it's time to bring the kids inside, lock up the doors, right? At the very least. But then it goes a step further, because at least as far as one of the things that Neighborhood Watch programs have been doing within the last 3 years is, you know, everybody have an air horn, so you start the chain of alerting the neighborhood immediately with just one press of an air horn button, right?
So loud alarms are important as well.
Right, and then now by spreading the description of what to look out for, it allows the rest of the neighborhood to potentially gather information. Yes, they did continue down the road and they took this turn, and then somebody else down the chain, yes, and then they went so and so and so, and that helps.
Yeah, and when as a young investigator, I was exposed to programs and courses from England and from the US, and they taught us how to gather this information and how. But the thing is, it's a bit of a cultural difference in that in those countries, the civilians or the citizens on the ground actually cooperate a lot with officers.
Yeah.
And they give information very voluntarily, very easily. Yes, I saw him proceed down this way. I saw this, I saw. So you have eyewitnesses coming forward a lot, as opposed to Trinidad, where you have to kind of have anonymous informants or confidential informants to really protect them.
I think situation like this is a catch-22. If nobody wants to come forward, then it's very easy for the criminal element to threaten the one person that might be willing, right? If the entire block is looking to come forward, it's one of those things where, yes, there is theoretical safety or rhetorical safety in numbers, in the sense of it just becomes more and more impractical the harder it is to intimidate a group of civilians.
Right.
You could always intimidate one.
And you see that, like for instance, I as a task force officer, I worked in some hotspot areas in Trinidad. And in those areas, although you may have the proliferation of drugs and maybe guns, you didn't have as much robbery and other violent crimes as you would usually have in other communities.
Okay.
So they would protect their own and they would protect the community. And you couldn't come in. We were able to solve larcenies and robberies and whatnot in these communities because they did not allow it.
Oh, right. They were as much as the criminal element was active there, the point is the residents were like, no. At the end of the day, we're not just rolling over.
I remember as a child protection unit officer going into some hotspots in Lavanti, and the community was so welcoming of us as opposed to the other officers, because we came in to assist. We were looking for a young lady. She had run away from home, and they did not want that type of behavior in their community. And I basically, I was in plain clothes, the other officers was in plain clothes. We didn't have any task force officers with us. Normally we carry task force officers with us in hotspot areas, but we were able to communicate. And I remember, guys who appeared to be involved in stuff and they came forward and said, no, officer, let me walk you into the community. Let me take you there and let me find out what's going on. And they did that. So there are crimes that the community condones and there are crimes that they don't condone.
It's one of those things where if there's any silver lining about criminal gangs and they suffer sexual assault and crime.
Yeah, they don't condone
at all. Like, well, especially there's a lot of testimonies by former inmates, online, and they kind of speak to whenever they get one of these guys. It's they don't mince matters. So to the extent where you could even argue like it's borderline undeserved. We're not actually going to say it's undeserved, right? And it's just to show you the mentality that, look, this is a hard line that they're not going to cross. But it also, as you say, the key point is, it's not like, oh, look, the criminals are so nice. No, it's the point where there's just a situation where if the community is willing to say no, then no, it can be. What are they going to do? Kill the whole community? Like that's just not practical.
Right.
And this is before stand your ground laws. Right? And when I say not practical, it might sound a little bit kind of like callous and unfeeling, but that is the reality. It is more of an intimidation of you rather than the actual, we want to kill everybody that want to oppose us.
Yeah, so going back to the NCW, it's very important that you have these networks in place. So you secure as much as possible. You harden your targets at home. Your gates, your locks, your environment, your yard, and whatnot. You use as much necessary tools as possible to alert neighbor and the neighborhood as to what's going on. As I said, the loud alarm, the buzzers and these kind of alarms.
I mean, even the panic button thing.
Panic button is a great idea.
Yeah.
And it brings the attention of everybody.
Yes, I'll be careful not to kind of, have it go off with a false alarm, because then you get that reverse thing where people
Yeah,
start
well,
their
eventually,
condition
yeah.
to ignore it.
Yeah, and then, you know, and you alert community members, and then as much as possible, you could have these WhatsApp groups are very important. It does help.
One of the things that I find interesting to note, and we kind of take it for granted because we know that the criminal enterprise, a lot of the people on the ground are very young people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So in that shooting where the 66-year-old man shot people accosting him, right?
Yeah.
Over the weekend.
Yeah.
The gentleman who died, I don't know what the age of the woman was. At least I can't remember if it was reported, but the one who was found at the hospital, right, and eventually died while being treated for wounds, he was 23. And then in that story with the chain, I think you said it was 19. I think you just said the suspect that was apprehended was 19. Am I correct?
From Faisal.
Yes, 19. The report says he's 19 years old. So I remember, like a decade ago, someone I knew was a victim of a home invasion.
Right.
The criminal seemed very, for lack of a better word, professional, which makes me think, oh, this is not their first rodeo. They kind of do this,
of
right?
course. They sit and they think about it. Yeah.
But now we have 19-year-olds and like that. Look, the 66-year-old, by all rights, if you get a jump on him, he's not supposed to have the space to just pull his gun and shoot you, right?
But he will, yeah.
So
But he took
these
the opportunity when it
seem
happened.
to be these young criminals kind of just doing a thing,
Right.
right?
So you see that as time progresses, you saw that the criminal element went from neighborhood character, and there was an order amongst the older heads. Because
Right.
I understand that order. I came from that order. As police officers, we had to
Investigating and
we had to interact with the older heads, and there was an order. And I remember especially in Port of Spain, we were able to go to the older heads and get back items stolen. We were able to solve crime. We were able to infiltrate the community in such a way that it was a better community. And now we have the lack of the senior heads having control over the younger heads. You have this wild behavior, this unprofessional, this ill-ordered behavior amongst these young adults.
But one of the things that I'm wondering is, because it's wild and unorganized and not necessarily condoned by any sort of higher authority in the criminal underworld, it also means to some extent, potentially, the kind of criminals that might be threatening communities now, the threat of, oh, well, if you oppose us, we'll come back, is not quite the same, because when you have these 19 to 23-year-olds just kind of, oh, look, let's just rob this guy, right? They don't necessarily have some senior gang leader backing them up.
Of course not. And so there is organized crime, but there are these unorganized elements in criminal activity. And even their parents know about it, but they can't speak to them.
Right.
We have come across a lot like that. So you have children in homes, in their own home, I'm talking about, not in children's homes, but in their own home, leaving the home to go and commit criminal activity and going back to the home, and the parents can't talk to them.
The thing is, and this is a word to parents that can't talk to them, I just saw a video. I believe the shooter was acquitted. 3 teens tried to break into a house. They got shot and killed. I think one of them may have had a firearm and shot first. So all of this was caught on camera, right? Yeah. You know, and they were throwing bricks at the door. They were being extreme. Even if they didn't have firearms, arguably it was like, I wouldn't fault nobody for their life in that situation, right? And they ended up dead. The thing is, though, so that's just by the way a warning to those parents, you all have to try and figure something out, because the consequence might be too late to learn from.
And there are avenues that parents who have children who need to be dealt with before the courts, they can't bring them up before the courts. The courts can place them in a home. They could put them in an institution. The police could come in.
I feel like my issue with that is not the idea of it, but rather the fact that those institutions seem to not always
But the court monitors, monitors the progress of this child.
But the reason why I brought it up, that's tangential. The reason why I brought it up is to point out to people, what are you afraid of? Because it's not like every criminal who potentially threatens your community is part of this wide network that you have to fear.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Because it's unorganized, right? There's no one behind them to threaten you. right? They are sticking their neck out and they're just kind of hoping the general environment and feeling of crime and the fear of not wanting to be involved and to keep your head down because you can't mess with these big drug lords and these drug barons and this transnational crime. Hey, the random young man looking to snatch your chain, he might not be part of that. No, and you don't want to let him get away scot-free.
Yeah, and to some extent, organized crime does assist in police in dealing with the problem. Because if it's organized, we have a target. If it's unorganized, we don't necessarily have a target. We don't know who committed it. For example, last week there was a show for young people in the West. I think it was in O2.
Like a concert.
Yeah, a concert. Yeah. And I think they call it Miami Beach or something. And some phones were stolen.
Right.
Right. And the police officers in the West were able to communicate with a gang leader. And when I say gang leader, they went to not necessarily the gang leader himself, but they were able to communicate with persons on the ground in that community. So they were able to track the phone to a community in Port of Spain. The community, somebody in the community spoke to a gang leader. And the gang leader spoke to whoever took those phones and they were able to retrieve the phones.
Right.
You understand?
Basically, the gang leader was like, you all brought heat to me, I don't want this heat.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give it back,
yeah,
and they're gonna leave us alone.
Correct. And that's exactly what happened. So the organized gang leader was able to assist the police indirectly to retrieve these stolen phones.
Right, and to some extent, because we knew that the violence, the crime started to become unorganized maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I think maybe when you started coming on the show
it probably started like 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, okay, right. And it's just been like devolving now into hard. That's why it's harder to manage, ironically.
Yeah. So you have pockets and you have elements everywhere, leaving the community to go in other communities and rob persons and then and go back to the community. So you have no way to really tell who is who. You know,
because it's random young men.
It's random young men. They don't emanate from a community that may speak to the police, might even know that they came from a different community. So you have strangers coming into your community. One thing is trending though is that it seems that when they come into a community, it seems they come with a wealth of knowledge of the community that they're coming into. So it seems that persons in the community appear to be giving them the information.
Or maybe they know, or it could be how they select their targets is because they happen to get
it appears
information
it could be
beforehand.
inside information because like the robbery we spoke about and in North Trinidad that I responded to with to the welfare check on the persons. Part of the information is that we were able to pinpoint persons in the community who would have brought them from outside the community.
Oh, that brought, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is that direct of inside, not you happen to hear something and act on it.
So there are crimes of opportunity.
Right.
And there are planned criminal activities.
All right, we have a call on the line and we also have a comment on back on the self-defense situation, but we'll take the caller first. Good morning, caller, you on here? Caller, you need to mute your phone.
Yeah.
Morning, morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Morning, Sean, and to the officer there.
Good day.
Right? Yeah. I heard you talking about the two people that get killed just recently, over sometime last week now.
Yeah.
But you didn't give a name and you didn't show a picture of what they look like. I think these are things that we need to see. Pictures, names of people who doing the crime. We know it are people from all sectors doing crime, but we need to see the names and the people that are doing the crime so that we can, be more on top of the games that happening out here. And don't just make it look like it was one sector people doing the crime now, because it's all sector people doing the crime. Another thing is that we have the state and independence. I don't know why we should just abandon that. I don't think we should abandon that because there is something national and there is a culture. I think we should find a way to consider that we should have our independence. Thank you.
I understand Your first point, I understand what you're going to. I just don't think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I don't think, yeah.
Right?
I
I'm just
agree with that.
trying to put, because that's anecdotal. That's not necessarily helpful to say the demographics of crime.
Yeah, when I worked in the child protection unit in the special victims department, one of the things I noted is that, you know, you always think from being a Trinidadian or in your local area that particular crimes emanate from particular areas.
Yeah.
And particular races would involve themselves in particular crimes as much as more than others. And it's totally opposite. It's totally across the board.
So this is the thing, and I advocate for this more macro reporting on the demographics, right? You run the risk that if for whatever reason the demographics are skewed in any particular crime, people will run with that and say racism one way or the other or somehow, right? And there's many different perspectives on to say racism. But generally speaking, if you want to kind of give truth to the statistics, and you have to tell people they need to be responsible with the information, not just jump to conclusions, but you give out the macro statistics of not just race, but socioeconomic and geographic.
And then you have the issue of these two persons who would have been killed. I think it was two persons that the elderly person, the 66-year-old guy killed.
By the double offender,
right,
yeah.
Correct. And
well, it's three because there was two of the assailants.
Oh.
The female drive in the robbery, two died from the old man shooting, and then the double stand, a third party woman, from what I understand,
now,
was killed. Yeah.
You know, condolences to their family, because at the end of the day, I can't speak to what occurred at there.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it was lawful or not is still up in the air. It still has to be investigated. But to put those persons on the front burner in national view, that they would have committed they committed a crime.
Well, two of the deceased.
It doesn't do anything for the family who is traumatized now, who has to go and bury persons for maybe making a silly mistake.
Well, one of them is potentially an innocent bystander. So,
Correct, yeah.
right? The assailant, and this is the other thing, like, if you put out their personal information, because in the double stand situation, the two men who allegedly initiated the confrontation with knives and attacked the prisons officer with knives and stabbed him. If you put their faces out there, you only do that if you think that there's a risk to the public and you need the public to be aware to avoid them.
Yeah.
But if you put it out there, you run the risk of members of the public looking to jump them, attack them, and you might think, oh, so what if these guys get attacked and hurt? No, they might hurt other people who attack them.
And then the family could be victimized as well.
That as well, too.
Yeah.
Because people will know who their families are. It's not just the wider national community. Their neighborhood will see the pictures on it. And their children, their family members, their community could be prejudiced against. We have Digger Martin waiting on the line. Good morning, caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Sean, and good morning to SP Arun.
Good day, good day.
Two points I want to raise today. But the first one is the cancellation of the Independence Parade. I agree with it, with all I'm seeing in the news. Now, I want to suggest the moving of the Independence Parade from being always in South to have it in Central Trinidad, so everybody can participate. It has always been a North-centric sort of celebration. Independence is for everybody. So put it in a place that everybody have access to the parade. You will see how much debate that will cause now, moving it from Port of Spain into Central. Right. I see you're smiling, ASP Arun, are going to throw out some data points that is just frightening to me as a citizen. And I'm going to reflect on 1990, that nasty occurrence. It might be symptoms all over the place. Where are the police with the investigation into the missing 28,000 ammunition from the Defense Force? I'm seeing, I saw a newspaper article and I'm confused if they got it or they get it. The second thing, if that is not is lost and it has not been replenished, is the Defense Force ready to mitigate a potential 1990? Because that is a lot of ammo. That if that has not replenished into the defense force, there's a big hole. The second thing is, I am seeing the Venezuelan clip where they say five people from Trinidad, criminal elements, and one from Trin de Agua has infiltrated, and they connected to a gang in the North Coast. The Sandman gang. That is on the newspaper. I'm not saying anything. Now, everybody in Trinidad knows that in certain places in Trinidad, you in the night you hear rat-a-tat-tat-tat. People just shooting wildly. Ammunition is an expensive thing, and I don't believe a criminal will need to really take high-powered ammunition and shoot it for fun. So it's a cost to him. So that is why I'm linking that missing 28,000, and if it is anywhere circulating into that. The fact is that this thing happened, Maduro, and I feel that I am linking it to recency bias. The fact that he.
Caller, you're breaking up. You're breaking up, caller.
You hear me better now?
Yeah, but we did not hear anything after you mentioned President Maduro.
All right. I say he is basically working with his friends to destabilize this country. And why I'm saying that? You know why he is has taken intervene himself and holding those people is because the Americans is sending down 4,000 Marines to basically patrol the borders. And that is what I consider to be recency bias, to show that, hey, he in sync with everything, trying to curtail the drug trafficking. More importantly, the police has to look at the North Coast. And this is what I believe they probably have seen it. If there has any recent development in the North Coast where buildings are put up that could identify spots where things could be dropped off, are buildings, huge buildings on the North Coast Road painted in white, simulating the lighthouse to tell the traffickers this is a good drop-off point. So within the 10 years, I am telling you that was possibly happening. The other thing Patrick Manning said, Mr. Big, is wrong. I think Mrs. Tierra said that he knows it. This is a good opportunity. That North Coast might be the proliferation of where all the drug drops are, because the other peninsula, you have certain police and army, so they're looking for a different route. And I have gone to the North Coast, and I'm seeing a lot of white buildings, a lot of big properties. In the night, there might be an easy place to show a potential drop, where to drop, and things like that. So I'm just putting these points. The 28,000, how the ammunition is a costly thing, the recency bias Maduro, etc., etc. We put it together and we get a frightening picture. Can we respond to a 1990s scenario? And then you have all the promotion, the whole melee within the promotion in the army. Likewise, is a reflection of what is happening in the TTPS too. Have a nice evening. Morning, sorry.
Thank you. I'll just say this. We have another caller, but I'll just say this. I do wish the regiment could potentially go to the Americans and say, hey, could we get some more guys trained in Ranger School and then deploy those, if they're willing, right? It's volunteer, extra training, so we could deploy long-range foot patrols up in the more remote areas of the northern range.
No. The thing with Trinidad, it's 365 degrees of ports. You have ports anywhere.
Yeah, but
because one thing I learned in when I was working in task force is that when we prepare that exercise to hit Toko now, is personally community facilitating these issues, right? Is the fishermen and the villagers and whatnot, and not necessarily Toko, but the villagers around the North Coast. And when we tried to infiltrate, let me say Toko, the drugs would be
Well, you see, the unfortunate reality is, to what extent can we patrol everywhere at the same time?
Exactly. No, but
to make it
blame,
difficult.
Yeah, it's
no,
very difficult.
I'm not blaming, but I'm just saying for that, because the North Coast might present a specific challenge.
Right.
And I'm saying this might be a way to tackle that challenge.
Right, and then but it's difficult
Yeah.
to really police the entire coastline. That's why we need the Coast Guard and the Army along the borders as well. So it's, it's just not about police.
Well, that's why I didn't go with police. I said Army, because we go in now up in the mountains and the bush.
And then and they drop off. They drop off any and anywhere.
We have Arima waiting patiently, hopefully still with us. Caller, are you there?
Oh, good morning.
Morning.
Morning to you and your guests.
Morning, yes.
Now, first thing I want to find out, right?
Mm-hmm.
The gentleman who lost his life in the accident in the platform, to which the body has not been recovered to date. I would like to know, because the organization is still going on. Yeah, they're still functioning. Like it's nobody's business. I would like to know what laws are being breached here. Because this organization is not trying to retrieve the body. And I am seeing the mother last night crying on the television, and it is heart-wrenching to know that the politicians are caring about their lives and talking about threats. And we having citizens who died whilst doing honest day's work due to an accident and nothing is happening.
Is this a recent incident, or you're speaking about the missing worker from months ago?
It's months now that have recovered the body of the gentleman.
Yeah.
John Michael Small.
Yeah.
It's months now they have not recovered the body of the gentleman. The second thing I want to find out, because I wanted to make sense. I want you to help me make sense of this thing, right? The news they reporting today that the Minister of Justice is under threat. And whilst he and his convoy was going home, he was followed by a vehicle on more than one occasion. So, that will make sense. It's not the Minister of Health, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of
Defense,
Public
not just
Utilities.
Yeah.
It's defense we're talking about.
National defense,
The person in charge of the armed forces who's sitting on the National Security Council we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the excuse that we're getting for not having a parade. Now, if you go back a little bit, right? Let me try and connect some dots here. You could remember our former Prime Minister, Keith Rowley, having a problem with the SIS, or wherever the agency is importing sniper rifles into this country.
Well, yeah, that was
because
a thing,
when you think about it, Independence is held in the Grand Stanley Savannah, an open air space. So if they had to be picked off with a sniper rifle, you're looking at somewhere like by the zoo, on top of Hilton, some building.
Not necessarily.
You have to think logically about some of the nonsense that these politicians are trying to feed us in. Because if, at the end of it all, their life is under threat, because ours is under threat for the past, since 1990, we're under threat. For the past 10 years, there's over 4,000 people, citizens have lost their lives at the hands of crime. This is not animal farming. But the way it is played out, and the Honorable Minister of National Security tell you, well, it has some information you should know, and some that you do have to know. This is not animal farm, it's people's lives they're playing with. And I can tell you that because in school, a child's welfare is more important than the teachers. If anything happens to a child in school, you know what writing you have to write? You know what explanation you have to give? And I find it's time we in this country get serious, because think of Christmas, think of Carnival, think of Diwali. So if this threat is not neutralized, so that you're canceling all these things to them. Have a good day, gentlemen. I would listen off here to hear your responses. Firstly, to the situation with the body on the platform.
Yeah.
And secondly, to this fast. Because I'm glad we're not spending that money on fireworks. That is a waste of money. But our national pride as a nation, you're telling me you all are free to come out in the open air? Well, imagine for the next elections, if the threat persists, how are you going to walk about Trinidad and Tobago to speak to people? You got to do it with the army. Have a good day, sir.
Yeah, I don't think I think the information concerning the threat to the country came via the office of the commissioner. I don't think it.
You see, part of it is it could be sources. The commissioner has spoken on some things and has not been available for comments on others. And then there are other intelligence services that are outside of the police.
Because I remember him saying that based on the information he got,
yeah,
he went directly to the
National
the National Security Council, and they effected the SOE.
Okay, we have a caller, but I'll just say this with regards to the missing body. At this point, unless we're lucky, it's very unlikely that body will be recovered, given that it's open ocean and the body could have decayed, been scavenged by.
What we'll do, we'll try to get an update for the 28,000 rounds and the investigation concerning that.
No,
that's an industrial accident. So.
I just want to speak to that, right? That we could probably look into the initial response and the immediate follow-up to that. But the longer it went on, and I'm talking like in the first couple of days, you run the risk of that body being practically impossible to find, right? And potentially in a matter of days, maybe longer, maybe less, I'm not sure. That's why, if anything, it's to criticize the initial response.
It's important that
in the first couple of days.
I think it's important that his wife has some closure.
Yeah, but I just don't know what could be currently done, right? It's on a platform, open ocean, currents, predators, scavengers, sharks eat any certain shark species will take up a dead body like nothing. So, and also just natural decay. I know someone that passed away. He was in his house for 4 days. That was enough so that they couldn't have an open casket. Because they didn't discover the body for 4 days.
And if they can't find the body, I think it's important to tell his wife and the family.
Yeah.
We can't find
I don't know. I would hope that they've basically already had that kind of practical conversation by now. Maybe not. You might be right. We have Faisal on the line. Caller, good morning. You're on here. We'll respond to everything, Arima and Diego Martin and everyone else. But we'll take the call first. Morning, Faisal.
Good morning. Firstly, I want to touch on the recovery of the body from the mishap down at Point 14. Initially, they said it would have been very unsafe for people locally to attempt the recovery of the body, or even a rescue attempt. And so I think that situation still exists, because I know they would have gone on to get foreign help to try and retrieve the body. And that, I think that investigation is still taking place. They would have looked at it from a safety standpoint, and I think decisions were made around that. I think the better person to give you an update on that is people from the USH board. They would have all the information that is necessary, while my heart goes out to the family. But I understand what is taking place. Secondly, is the Independence Parade. Gentlemen, I am saying we elected this government to deal with crime and criminality as one of the pillars. They are now attempting to do that in a very real way. They would have gotten information, and intelligence would have guided them in a certain direction to make the decision they would have made. Based on reports I am seeing, it is being fruitful. It's a fruitful expedition, as you might want to call it, because the amount of guns have been recovered, people arrested, ammunition recovered, drugs recovered. Yes? The question I want to ask is it prudent that we neglect the intelligence and information that we have now, as we did in 1990, when you had information forthcoming and we neglected to take action? Do we want to repeat a 1990? I commend this government for the action they have taken to protect the lives and liberty of people of Trinidad and Tobago. We are not yet in a cursed state, which tells me they have things under control to an extent. And I would support them 110%, gentlemen, because I believe the safety and the security of the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago is of paramount importance. You cannot want to have the president and ministers going up to an independence parade with multitude of people, a very large crowd, and then somebody needs one down. Then you say, oh, they had a state of emergency, and they still keep it, and people get killed. So, you know, I support them 100, let them do what they have to do to keep the nation safe. Have a great day, my brother.
Well, again, it seems that the information that the commissioner has is so credible that they cancel the Independence Day parade. Also, I want people to remember and note that it's not just about the high-profile persons attending the parade that would have been targeted. It's also about you're diverting a number of personnel, thousands of officers, from the field into one location. And that in itself could be a problem. Because if the target is somewhere else and you have all these officers in Queen's Park, Savannah, you're shooting yourself in your foot. Because then you're taking priority away from the entire country to concentrate on something. And to me, that was one of the reasons that...
Yeah, exactly. That's why you said there's so many officers being committed to this.
Yeah.
And it's not just the day itself, it's also the preparation.
Rehearsal, yeah.
Now here's the thing, Gola. To snipe someone in the grandstand, no, you don't need to be in Hilton. No, you don't need to be by the zoo.
It could be in a tree. It could be in a tree.
It could be in a tree. But more importantly, and I think that this is public enough that I'm not giving anybody ideas. You could be in the tall grass in the savannah, right? Although that would be a very good way to also get caught because it'll be difficult to exfiltrate.
No, we have things in place for
things like that, right? You could also be like as was seen years ago, I think over a decade ago, Washington D.C. You could be in a vehicle, you could be in the trunk of a car,
but
right?
the Army does have sniper.
Right, counter snipers. And spotters, right?
Yeah.
So, but the point is the threat is very real, and to what extent do you want to expose people? You have counter snipers, not to say, yeah, boy, that's fine. We'll just kill them first. You have that in case someone is looking to do that. You still have a way to counter it, but sometimes you're like, do we even want to put ourselves in a position to have to counter it, right? And then the other thing is, not all assassinations have to be with a sniper rifle. You can get someone from the criminal empire willing to do the risky thing and getting close, right? And then, listen, it's a lot. To some extent, we've already, I think Reagan was shot in that manner.
He was shot coming out of a building
right?
on the pavement.
Robert Kennedy, I believe, was shot in that manner, right? Granted, there will be security measures in place to prevent that, and it's a kind of crazy thing to do because that's a very good way to get yourself killed and or captured for what can only be deemed as a capital offense, right? Murder is a death penalty, and it's going to be very obvious in that situation who the killer was. So it's possible. So again, but you don't want to rely on these things because at the end of the day, if someone shoots the prime minister or the president, the fact that the shooter's going to get caught saves them nothing. And then, to me, there's also the unspoken. What happens now if you have a crowd, an audience, or whatever, and some violence kicks off and it causes like a panic?
So and you want to be careful how much crowds you have during an SOE, because because you don't know, you don't want too much mitigation with respect to civilian lives and that kind of thing. What the members of the public should take note of and find out and try to get the information for is how long is the information going to remain credible.
Right.
Because you have credible, okay, we take it for granted the information is credible. How long is this going to last? How long is this SOE going to last? How long is the threat going to be? How long is it going to take to neutralize? And things are dynamic, because then you could say a month, and then a month later, it explodes into something else.
Yeah. One of the other issues is, and listen, I understand people are upset that it was cancelled, and there's a negative implication of that. And it's not the, oh gosh, we cancel, how they could do that. No, the implication is it was that bad that they felt the need to cancel the event and to announce its cancellation and to announce this reason for its cancellation. Because it's similar to the SOE. Now you've tipped off the criminal elements that we're on to you before they do the thing, whatever it is you're afraid of. So it's not like you could catch them in the act anymore. That's gone, right? The other thing is the implication, and I think somebody brought this up, somebody else, so I'm not going to say this is an original thought of mine. The sign. How telling is this of our criminal situation right now, where if we believe the government, there are people willing to do what essentially is something crazy. Because again, I just said, doing these kinds of attacks is not easy to just get away, you know, and disappear into either. These are some high-profile things where everybody and you know, even the family members they don't like, they will all understand and potentially come together and say, yeah, I saw so-and-so go that way, right? It's one thing if some random fellas on the block rob somebody and nobody want to talk, or there's a drug dealer, nobody wants to speak out against the drug dealer. If someone take a pot shot on a national leader, you know, even the criminal element and all, for the same reasons of, well, we don't want to smoke, so that they're not with us. Now, then again, it could be a plot by a criminal syndicate of various organizations, we don't know. But this is one of those heavy, crazy things where it just means bad things all around, right? And perhaps this should be a wake-up call for people to be like, this is what happens if you put your head in the sand and just say, well, we hope that the politicians and police who we complain about incessantly of being unable to do a thing, but we leave it to them to fix the problem that we complain they can't fix, right?
One thing,
that don't make sense.
One thing I want people's persons to remember as well is that the plans for the Independence Day parade were going along, you know?
Yes.
So we were preparing. As I said, I attended meetings, and we have been attending meetings for months, every week, in fact. And we were preparing for dress rehearsal. So what I'm saying is that everything was going according to plan. Until last week, I think Thursday or Friday, when whatever information they had, they used that to cancel, the Independence Day parade. So it's not like, even during the SOE, it was always planned to have the parade.
Yeah.
We were preparing ourselves for the parade.
You know, like when you say it that way, guys, we're under state of emergency, right? What do we complain about the state of emergency? Does it really feel like a state of emergency? The state of emergency kind of not really doing much, right? Not really doing, like, we're not feeling it. The criminals not feeling it, right? And then we're like, but how dare they take away our parade? It just, if we're under state of emergency, I think now is not necessarily time to have parades. And to the caller's point from Marima, Independence Day parade is centered around senior government officials. That's at the core of the formalities. Christmas, whatever happens on President's grounds, whatever the Prime Minister's concert, whatever, they might not even be there at the event in person. Maybe, maybe not, right? Christmas is more about private events. Christmas and holidays like Christmas, Diwali centered around religious ceremonies. Politicians don't have to show up to that. For private Christmas ceremonies and religious ceremonies for the Christmas season for Christians and whoever else, those are not government-centered events. So it's not quite the same of when we have Christmas, what are you going to do? Well, to be fair, the Prime Minister and the President and the ministers, they could all kind of stay holed up in their homes under guard while the rest of us, whatever. That threat is not going to directly translate to my Christmas party with my friends. Independence for everybody. I understand the sentiment. The problem is the government is centered around Port of Spain. Key landmarks are centered around Port of Spain. It is what it is. I have called for the government to be more centered around central because it's central or decentralized. But I don't know if we'll ever potentially move independence. Hey, maybe if we get our act together, we might have a parade that goes all the way from north to south or south to north or something like that. So the whole country could be involved, right?
Who marching on that parade?
Again, like I said, maybe if we get our act together, right? Because that to some extent, well, it is kind of long, yes. But maybe it's not a parade. Maybe it's a motorcade that goes into a parade, right? Because kind of wait with me now, all right? Maybe you have like a parade in south with some national security people. Then you have then they pass the proverbial baton to a motorcade, drives up the highway, beep, 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 and then you have the last leg of another parade in north, right? And then, of course, somebody say, well, Tobago and what about East Trinidad? It's like, oh, look, we start small, we work our way up.
But in previous years, we did the independence parades in different communities. Huh? We did Port of Spain, San Fernando, Tobago. Because I went around doing parades.
Yeah.
And Toco, even when I remember doing I remember marching through Toko as well for independence.
There you go. There you go. So here's an interesting tidbit, and I'll expand on this tomorrow. There's an interesting question on what are the actual models of firearms criminals are using, if it's AR-15 civilian models, because military ammunition have high pressure loads, and that could damage civilian-built AR-15s, even if they were modified potentially for automatic fire. So that's kind of interesting if, these criminals, they're popping off, and one of the reasons why they're not popping off all the time is because they don't realize, maybe I revealed something I shouldn't have, they don't realize they might be damaging their own weapons because they're trying to use the wrong ammunition, right? But hey, it is what it is. That's the downside. Ironically, there's a downside to using military-grade ammunition in a non-military rifle, even though they are technically of the same dimensions. They are not built for the same round. But with regards to the missing body, look, I'll say this, because the implication is perhaps the body's still trapped in the wreckage. I don't know if the platform is still out at sea, if it's been put into somewhere with dry dock, I don't know. But regardless of if the body could still be found, I don't think there's much of a body at this point. I don't know if our waters are cold enough to preserve it in any practical way. This potentially speaks to, similar to the Parry incident, we have to question, do we lack expertise with industrial accidents at sea, right? Especially given the fact that we have both, yes, we have ships coming in, cargo ships, oil platforms, gas platforms, and the like. Are we deficient, or is our level reasonable? I don't know. And when I say reasonable, it's because, at a certain scale, look, you can't prepare for every eventuality at a certain scale, right? There are certain capabilities we just don't need because we will not see those situations enough to justify the cost, right? Yes, we could have a hospital, but do we need the best cardiac unit in the world meant to deal with 1 million heart surgeries a year? No, we don't, because we're not going to have 1 million heart surgeries a year with a population of 1.5 million, right? So to what extent does our scale of our industrial at sea base, are we meeting reasonable expectations for expertise to do search and rescue and the like? Or are we falling behind? I don't know. And perhaps those wider questions of why don't we have the expertise to retrieve the body, right? Can't this happen again? Then again, how often has it happened where we've had a situation quite like this, and therefore that's why we don't have the expertise? I don't know. But I do think that regardless of whatever the reason is, those things have to be examined to prevent this outcome, in that we're not going to get a body with an open casket on this case, right? We're just not. And the family will be lucky to have remains at all, even if they were still trapped in the wreckage somewhere. We don't know what has happened to them. So, all right, that's a lot that I've said. Like I said, perhaps it's a wake-up call. Trendy Aragua, I believe, Chris, you said this. They've been here since maybe 2018. This is not a new thing. No. And to what extent have they infiltrated? At least we don't know. And I think you gotta understand, the National Security Council and the police can't tell us certain details, right?
No, but for a number of years now, we've recognized and we've had information that our locals have been communicating and trading with gangs from Venezuela.
And I think part of it is the increase in violence could be, to some extent, the influence. Is that correct?
Yeah, and if the more influence there is, the violence would increase. So the more interaction there is, because they do trade. They trade with toilet paper, they trade with food, they trade with KFC, they trade with whatever. They trade, this is what they used to trade. And the influence comes across, and you could see, there is some violence coming out of that.
I mean, look, they've noted in the States, they've also noted the level of violence. And a country that has had Mexican gangs infiltrate and had, LA street gangs go national, Crips and Bloods. The fact that they're like, yeah, but these trendy Aragua people might also be like a problem on a level that we actually might not have experienced before. That's alarming. I don't know how true the statement is. Between MS-13, Crips and Bloods, and all the other Latin American cartels that's been operating on the borders of the states and so forth. I don't know how true trendy Aragua is worse. But just the fact that someone can see that statement, kind of like, oh, but they're here too? And we had to deal with them? And this is why I'll say, with the upcoming budget, I will have no problem if we see a greater allocation to
Yeah, for a number of
TPS.
years now, we have had information, and credible information, that the Latin American gangs have infiltrated up and down the Caribbean. Yeah.
But things are going to get tricky since Trinidad was labeled as a terrorist organization. I'll speak about that tomorrow when I get to that topic. We should end things there. Let me not continue rambling on. Yes, Arun, thanks for joining me once again.
Yeah, of course. And anybody who is willing to participate in the program, they can look towards Neighborhood Community Watch. They can look towards assistance from their local police district precincts, stations, the inspectors, of course, the sergeants, and the community policing officers. They are equipped to teach and assist persons to create these neighborhood watch groups. And you could utilize this as a technique to help fight crime.
Because one of the things is criminals use technology, we could use technology too.
Yeah.
WhatsApp groups for the neighborhood watch to spread information.
And nothing is wrong that you're outside your home,
yeah,
in the public, and you take a picture of somebody in the public who you feel is suspicious,
yeah,
and spread it across the WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
Does anybody know this person? And as simple as that, you might be capturing the identity of somebody who might be potentially a criminal, right? You don't want to put it in a domain that brings ill repute to the person's.
Right. Don't make it racial. Because yes, things like that could get there, especially if it's an outsider to community of a different race.
Yeah.
Don't make it racial,
No.
right? Because it's legitimate if you see an outsider to have that question.
Yeah.
Why is this race? Like, we are not on the way to anything. We're a suburb that you have to purposely come into, right? A lot of suburbs are like this, right? Not everywhere. But look, there's a lot of one-way streets in Woodbrook where people still live. Why is this person here? Why did this car drive down this one-way street?
Yeah.
There's, not every Woodbrook street has, it's just only businesses, right? So
it's perfectly legal to take your cell phone and record anybody or anything from within your property.
That, especially if they're in a public space.
You're
not recording their house, not your neighbor.
No, from within your private property.
Right.
And you're recording into the public domain.
Yeah.
You're not recording your neighbor's property.
Yeah.
You're not recording somebody's private property.
You're not going to somebody's property to record.
You're not going into
you're in your property.
You're in your property,
right,
and you're recording outside, and you share the information. It's for sharing purposes. It's not to talk about persons.
Ethnicity, or how this race doing this, that race doing that. These venues or these
listen,
whatever.
I do not know this person.
Yes.
Is anybody familiar with this person? Let's be careful if this person is involved.
Because somebody might say, yes, they're here to see me. They're here to cut my grass.
Yeah.
So you could disarm the situation, or something happened. Now the police has a suspect. In an ideal world where everybody does what they're supposed to do, it will just lead to an investigation that could either confirm or clear the individual.
And if criminal entities know that persons in the community are taking pictures, they're going to be less confident to come into your community if they know people are looking out. There's a neighborhood watch. You have CCTV cameras. You have phone cameras. You're sharing information. Although they can infiltrate in themselves, but nonetheless, if they have persons in the community.
And I'll say this: people are going to complain, well, why we are the police jobs for? Listen, I understand not police response times is not always the best, but even if they were fast, you still want to do this stuff to support, because you're not just supporting the police.
Yeah.
You're supporting each other, right? Look at it from that point of view, because if you support each other, you make a stronger chain with many links. It's harder for the criminal enterprise to break.
And when you're doing your recording, stay at a safe distance when you're doing your recording.
Yeah, don't go up to the person's face.
Yeah, don't push your hand in
look to have a
face.
confrontation.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea. All right. And with that, we'll take our leave. Thanks to the callers for calling. I understand it. Listen, everyone who is disappointed and upset about independence being cancelled has a right to be so. But again, I'm not going to blame the government for the decision. I am going to blame whoever we could potentially hold responsible to allowing the situation to reach this point where this decision had to be made. That's where I think we should direct our focus and our energy towards, not the how you could do this kind of thing. Because look, it is what it is. I would rather err on the side of people not dying. That's just me. So have a good day. Be safe. Remember your allegiance to the Republic and to each other. And I think that's something that we need to be reminded of more and more, right? We are all citizens of a society, of a nation that we hold dear to our hearts. That's why we still live here, right? And due to that, don't forget, it's nice to be nice, because look what a dispute over a parking lot caused. That's how easily things could escalate. Tensions are high. We need to tone things down so that we could all see each other tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Welcome to ASTI, Advanced Solutions Technical Institute. We offer hands-on training in drone technology, fiber optics, hybrid, security, business support, and more. Our programs are built to equip you with real-world skills for today's evolving industries. Get certified, get hired, and take your career to the next level with ASTI. Call 778-2135 or email info@astitnt.com. ASTI, where learning meets opportunity.